going to be back live on YouTube. I will need to quickly go back in here again and do the announcement here. Let's see, Room World's latest update. RimWorld's latest update had a bug, so switching to Farming Simulator 22. Alright. That's okay. There's been people who have been like really into... I've been doing all my videos on that one. So I know it's been a while since I've done our Survivor Man Challenge run in Farming Simulator. I have been doing the videos for the Survivor Man Challenge this whole time, and so like those have moved forward. I need to update the command for the YouTube because like, there's a new video out for it as well, which is a different run than this one. But so for me, it doesn't feel like it's been nearly as long for Farming Simulator because I'm putting in a number of hours of Farming Simulator every week to do the recording and then the editing and all that stuff for those videos. So even though I'm not playing it on stream as much because it hasn't been as requested, it has been one of those things that I have been playing the game literally multiple times a week, every single week, and all that. That said, I'd probably say I've been putting the most time into Stardew Valley lately, and then honestly PlateUp. I ended up messing with PlateUp with my family the other day. So, to catch up people to where we are, and also to remind myself where we are, so we're doing what's referred to as the Survivor Man Challenge. The gist of this challenge is, when I started out, I started with this bus, which all it is it's a place I'm able to sleep to fast forward time. This truck, which is just conveniences, so as I go to sell the wood way over there, you didn't have to watch me carry it log by log. I'm not allowed to sell the truck, and this chainsaw, and $0 and a dream. And from there, this hill used to be covered with trees. We chopped down all trees, sold all the trees, bought the very, very basic equipment for getting the greenhouses up, used the greenhouses to fund building our first couple fields, use those fields to get more fields, use those more fields to get the grain mill so far as the grain processing, and then use that money to expand farther and then get a bakery, and then after a bakery, we got even more land and sheep and all those things. So we have done a heck of a lot of expanding. Let me check my production lines because I don't remember any of this left off. Okay, so we are producing flour right now. We are producing bread. Bread is my main money draw. So that's all good. We are in the day that we need to be planting our wheat. Okay, so if I remember correctly, we have our sorghum over here that is harvested. Let's double check to see if I've already planted my wheat. I don't think we have, which would mean I'm on to planting my wheat. And this is what happens when I don't play for a while. That definitely does not look like I planted anything. That looks like that's been cultivated, has been fertilized. It is not. Okay. I think that's already been cultivated, but it has not been fertilized. I understand. And how much flour is in there? A ridiculous amount. Okay, so it's going to take me a minute to catch up. But yeah, so we've been doing this challenge where we started next to no money and just slowly building up from there. And it takes a while for that to happen. But at this stage, we've got like our giant harvester. We've got the second largest cultivator, the largest seeder. We've got a lot of these things that we're doing really good on. And that's all been going well. It's gonna take me a moment to remember half the controls that I'm doing with some of this stuff. Because in my other run, I don't have the mods I've got turned on in this run. And it's a whole big thing. And meanwhile, I believe we were saving money to expand the amount of land I owned, is I think where we left off the last time. Alright. Yeah, so we've got that over there. There's our big harvester. There's so much flour still in that building. Alright. Oh, I remember. One of the other things we were going to do is we were going to buy a warehouse. Because we were going to put a warehouse between the grain mill here and the bakery. That way, as we get bread and flour and all that, instead of just hucking it on the ground everywhere, then I could just dump it all into the warehouse, and then when it comes up time, say, hey, load up my vehicle with all the stuff from the warehouse and all that. That's fine. Alright. But yeah, for those who haven't seen Farm Sim before, it is a pretty chill, fun time game. It is one of those games that, like, it's not high octane, it's not like, you know, you're stressing to, like, get every little thing done. It's more, okay, how do I want to approach this? How do I want to approach that? Alright, so that looks like that is pretty much spent. I actually want to go from the other side here. Because what should happen here is, since I've already got all these fields cultivated, what I'll want to do is get the bigger tractor, get the sprayer, spray the fertilizer, seed the fields, and then after we seed the fields, I want to hit them with herbicide. Wait, actually, wait a second. That's not right. I don't need to do 2 rounds of spraying anymore, don't I? I think this one had fertilizer, so I don't even need to do that much. That's why it was left in the state it was. Okay, so we'll need to change you. That's not at all what I wanted. It's what I did. And I immediately regret it. For those who didn't see what I did, instead of where I was going to cycle between the different types of plants to get wheat there, I think that one's wheat? No, that one's barley. Gotta remember my icons. Wheat. Okay. So instead of cycling it over to wheat, instead I just punted all these seeds and the fertilizer out into their containers on the ground. We'll just top off real fast. And then we can get this all planted. But yeah, so I do one pass with this thing, and then I do another pass with herbicide, and I do a third pass with the second round of fertilizer, and then that would be everything I need to do to get everything ready for this step. You'll probably notice I don't have a ton of money at the moment. That is because we did buy the giant harvester, and while we have actually done around a crop since then, it's kind of, there's a delay from me buying equipment, like, or there's a delay from me finishing a season and then getting paid for the season, because I have a production line in between. Alright, so let's top off our seeds and all that. Everything seems to be in good repair too, so that's always a plus. Okay, so we're topped off in fertilizer. We'll probably have to buy more fertilizer and seeds in not too long. Alright. So we should be all good to go. I'm going to go back and start with the field down here. It's the straightforward one. And all that good stuff. Yeah, so this is one of those games that on paper, you'd be like, why would anyone play that? It's like, there's a lot of games that fall into that thing. Like Papers, Please, almost all the job simulator style games. You'd be like, but why would I play a game where I drive trucks? Or why would I play a game where I farm? Or why I play a game that I do that? And it's because there is actually fun things about, you know, jobs like farming and all that. And then usually the thing that kind of kills the fun, you know, is all, you know, either bureaucratic or economic or whatever. And a lot of these games, they either bypass it or they manage to make it in a more entertaining way. Okay, so let's see what else I need to be working on. So you're all repaired. I don't care. We can go ahead and grab you. Because this thing can technically run the sprayer badly. But can technically run it. Alright, and meanwhile, Anything in sale we care about? Not really. I mean, a windrower would be nice. Oh, actually, that's a big windrower, too. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter if it's a big windrower. I can't afford it. Like, there's many times you've been wrong thinking I won't like a game and end up liking it. Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot of games that you take the quick first look at it and you're like, oh my god, that looks so boring. And then you play the game, you're like, I understand. I understand the addiction. Like, I wouldn't say that Supermarket Simulator looks boring to me, but it's one of those games like, okay, like, you simulate a supermarket. It's like, that'll probably be fun for a little while. And then you actually play Supermarket Simulator, and you're like, oh, I understand. I get why people get super addicted to this game. Like, I understand the hook. But yeah. Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we are seeding our field and putting down our first round of fertilizer. When you're playing Farm Simulator, the way it works is you end up putting down 2 rounds of fertilizer to grow crops or whatever. So having a planter that does the first round for you does save you a lot of time. And if you're going, wait, you're just making the AI do all the work. Trust me, there's enough stuff I end up having to do here that it won't be a problem. The idea is first I want to get the AI doing this field first. So much better with the new seeder and harvester. Oh yeah. No, that's to give you an idea for the people who weren't here for the beginning of the challenge. I want to say, what is the smallest seeder size? Where are you? We had to start with the small seeder because it's all we could afford. And so the smallest seeder is 3 meters wide. Since then, we have moved up in the world to one that is 15 meters wide. So if you think about it, for every single time I do a pass with this thing, I had to do 5 passes with the other seeder. But it's actually worse than that, because that's assuming I have, like, immaculate precision on, like, perfectly lining up. So realistically, when it's, like, 3 wide, I'm probably going to be at, like, 2.6, 2.8 or something like that per pass. So it's actually roughly 6 passes per pass. You know, give or take, depending on how on the ball. And if I go even slightly too wide, then I have to, like, go back and correct my mistakes. And then added on to that, because it takes literally 5 to 6 times as long for me to do the entire process, I couldn't hand it over to the AI, because by the time the AI finished the field, I would be out, like, $2,000-3,000. And so when we looked at our profit margins, I was technically making a profit, but you can always tell when someone says it was technically profitable, it means it was bad. It's like, it was over 0, but not by much. That'd be like having the little kid running the lemonade stand and it was technically profitable. In that you sit there and you turn around and go, wait a second. You mean you sat out there for 6 hours making lemonade and selling it and all that, and you got 33 cents to show for it? You know, technically you made a profit, but yeah. Yeah, I actually should slow that down. I've been leaving it on 1 for my other run, because the other Survivor Man challenge, I end up having to go to root crop for my first things. Oh my god, never again. Because I had to do the crates and all that, 1 harvest with the crates, because the field I have on that map is probably maybe 1.5 times the size of the field I have in the far end, one of my largest fields. Like, it's a huge field, but it was all the crates of crops. The process of harvesting and collecting all of those boxes and then selling them was something like 9 real-life hours for a harvest. But again, that was setting it up in, like, you stacked everything against you in such an obnoxious way. So I did like 2 harvests like that, and then used that money to move over to soybean. But yeah, that was fun. I've been enjoying that. I do worry with that one, what's going to end up happening is as it continues on and I get more and more farm, there's going to be more and more like time I put into the farm that won't be recorded because it'll just be repeating content. But we'll see. It'll be one of those ones I can tinker with and adapt and whatever I got to. You did score the harvester? I did. That was, the luck I've had in that run has been absolutely absurd that I got. It was only the second smallest harvester, but where it was looking like I was going to have to potentially do a full extra harvest of the carrots, which I was really pretty upset about. I did manage to catch a pretty okay harvester on sale, and then a header that was slightly too big for the harvester, but within the realm it could still run. So I've had some pretty obnoxious luck in that run. That said, I've also had, like, when I don't have money and can't make it happen, I've had so many things I would have loved to have been able to get, but not happening. To be fair, we had pretty good luck on the stuff on this. The tractor we're using now is a relatively decent, large tractor that we've been using since, like, the second or third year in the game or whatever, like, pretty early at the beginning. And managing to score that early was tremendous, because I would have not been able to take advantage of any of this equipment had that not happened. You couldn't believe the header worked? Yeah, now the header was only, like, in horsepower, it was only a little bit higher horsepower than the harvester I snagged. So it was in that realm, was like, okay, I could see that working. I did test off stream, like, before I bought it, I did a quick save and I was like, okay, bought the two, put it together, turned it on. I was like, yeah, turn it on and move. Because that was a mistake I made in this run, is we did have one point where I did a mulligan where I bought the harvester and the header, and then I backtracked it, like reloaded the save. I can't remember exactly. We like reloaded the save or something because I had bought the giant header to go on the harvester, and it ran. So I was like, oh good, I can use this. And then I couldn't drive and run the harvester at the same time. It only had enough horsepower to do one or the other, which means it's useless because you have to drive forward for a harvester to work. But at that point, I had already bought it and everything else, and so I had to, like, effectively revert the save. Because of those things, like, I could have been like, no, we're not going to revert the save. But it basically would have been like 2 whole extra streams worth of effort of just doing what I'd already been doing. Here, I'm going to take over this pass because it's going to get stuck on that rock. But it was just going to, be doing the same thing from the big setback. And I'm pretty happy with that. I'm also really liking that's the Calmlands map that we're doing on the other save, and I really have been enjoying the Calmlands map. Now, I will say the Calmlands map, so it's a lot more rolling hills than the No Man's Land, which is nice and makes that interesting. But at the same time, it also has some stuff that makes it less interesting, and that's specifically like when you're talking about like in a tile, there'll be like trees along the border and like maybe one little rock formation in the middle with like 2-3 trees, and then perfectly smooth, no trees anywhere else. So you don't have nearly as much like bushes and trees and that to clean up. But I can see the draw for that. Alright, so this field is seeded. And so now we're going to top off our seeds. Then we'll get the tractor into the position on the next field and have it start doing that. And then we will go onto the other tractor while it's running and start doing the sprayer. That header was cheaper and wider. Oh yeah, the one I got on sale. Like, it would have been way more expensive, but we caught it like, I don't remember what percent off. It ranges from like 40 to something like 65 or whatever is what you can have off. Okay, so we're basically out of seeds entirely. I might actually set it for the AI to just buy the seeds as it goes. You can do that, and it's one way to make it a little less laborious for you. It's less cost effective, which is why which is the reason not to do it. Oh, right. This one, there isn't a good direction to go with it. Because if I go widthwise, I run to the grain mill at the end. If I go lengthwise, I run to the rock halfway through. So either way, I gotta touch it up. This is one of those fields that's probably going to go away eventually. Once I start expanding to the point we've got some giant fields. We'll repurpose this area. Okay, so with that... we go over here, and this tractor gets to do stuff that is well outside what it should have any business doing. But until we get another big tractor, that's just what it is. So the initial, the immediate investments we intend on doing is, one, getting a warehouse, just to make things more convenient so far as the pallets. Two, is I need to go and, get ourselves a better tractor for this tractor. The plan is to get rid of this tractor. Well, actually, this tractor will, take over the job of just running this water over here. And then we'll get, another big tractor that will be in par or bigger than the one we already own. And that should make our life much easier for that. Okay. But that'll have to come later. Alright. Another thing I want to get is I do want to get a semi. The semi truck. So that I can start getting the bigger capacity stuff. Alright, so we're putting down herbicide, or we're putting down fertilizer now, so it's not fertilizer I need the herbicide. So I think this will probably be herbicide over here. Yep, it is. Good. Yep, I did sell the 25 horsepower tractor. The one we got at the very beginning, just to have the minimum required to be able to run the greenhouses. All right. One thing I'm gonna do real fast is we're gonna go to settings real quickly and turn the help menu on just so I can see the partial width, because I will adjust that up and down as needed. Which just means I can shrink the size of the area I'm spraying so that I'm not wasting materials. But yeah, you can see as fast as that seeder is, it's already about halfway done with that field. And I'm just now getting into position to do the herbicide. But basically what happens is we plant, we herbicide, we fertilize, and then we're done for this in-game day. Until we have, the next procedure that needs doing. Forgot how big this thing is. Okay. F1 turns it on and off? Oh, good. I was unaware of that. That's very helpful. Because usually when I am, when I'm doing the recordings for YouTube, I have the guide turned off, so it's just less screen clutter. But, on stream, I'm a little less conscious about that. It doesn't feel like it's as big a deal with streaming. Alright, I mean, don't get me wrong, screen real estate is premium, and, even more so in streaming, screen real estate is even more of a premium, because I don't have many of the things I used to. I used to have the thing where it's who has done, the most bits recently, who's done, the most gifted subs recently, all those kind of things. But it's just one of those things that, like, as you had more and more of those things, like, all over your screen, it just kind of became more and more thing. Yeah, we had our poll. Technically, RimWorld won, but we pulled it up and they had an update earlier today, and my mouse wouldn't show up in the game. Like, it still worked, but, like, I couldn't see where my mouse was. There wasn't, like, an icon at all. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't play like that. Like, I'm not gonna fight this. I'm not gonna troubleshoot. I'll probably mess with it after stream to see if I can't fix it, and then I'll see it as I owe a segment of RimWorld. But troubleshooting that kind of stuff on stream usually is me spending like 45 minutes, half an hour, and then a lot of times you come up to the same results of, oh, it's just a bug in this version, and there's no elegant workaround. So you still switch games anyway, so it's easier just going. Jamer says, I will say I'm pleased that you didn't have to, but I did a second carrot season. That's the whole thing, is I did 2 carrot seasons, and then I did the other one. That was kind of the thing, as I was going into, like, low-key, if you want to actually, like, secret. So what I actually ended up doing was, I had previously done the 1 carrot season, said, no way in hell am I doing this again. I backed up because I back up the save every so often, that way if I do something like really mess up or the save gets corrupted or anything like that, I don't lose that much. And so I was like, okay, let me switch over to grass and all of that kind of stuff. And I put in a couple, like, I recorded a good, like, 4 episodes worth. I'm like, oh my god, I'm just gonna be growing grass for, like, the next 2 or 3 years in this game before I can do anything. It's like, this isn't fun for me, and this would be even more terrible to watch. Yeah, so I reverted the save back to the backup, did 1 extra round of carrots, and then, you know, switched over to soybeans. Okay. You should do carrots too? I probably will do the carrots and all at some point. The difference is, I won't be using the tiny little harvester that spits out a handful of boxes one at a time. And I'll also use autoloader. That'll be the difference. Because the plan is to get into more crop variety, because right now we only have 2 varieties we're doing. Okay, you're doing your last pass, and I gotta touch up that end of the field you wouldn't do. That's fine. Getting into sugar. Well, yeah, that's, I think what we talked about doing for our next production line was doing oil. And the reason we decided to go with that was purely because the equipment I already have can just, you know, I can just throw canola down, and I'm already making canola. So, like, we're right there. Versus, like, a lot of people have asked me to go into animals, and I do intend to. But for going into the animals, there is significantly more equipment I need. Do cakes need oil? I don't believe so. Yeah, no. So it's basically animals, sugar, and then we already have the others. The problem with the animals is I need to be able to do a lot of things for animals to happen. That's fine, I'll deal with it in a second. So it's just kind of one of those things that the animals have more investment required for me to get them up. Because I can do, right now I can do straw and grass. But I also need the problem with going into sugar, though, is I need more equipment. That's basically the issue with almost all of that. is with oil, all I have to do is buy the building. I already own all the equipment, like literally all of the equipment. I have no additional equipment I need to buy to get oil off. Versus all of the other crops, I either need to buy something for, you know, doing root crop, or for doing potatoes, or for doing, you know, like being able to do slurry, or like whatever. That's the motivation there, is because money is my big limiter, that I'm always going to do what requires the least investment to be able to start making money. Because the cake is a huge ordeal to get into. The cake is not going to be a little step. I do eventually want to get to producing cake, but, you know, did you... Alright, so I'm going to need to grab the cultivator and snip the end of that field. Oh, it also means it's not going to be limed. AI, always causing problems. Yeah, so like, the end game goal for me is not specifically making cake. That's something I'd like to do. Alright, so I gotta go grab the cultivator, and I want to just get the edge of that field. I don't want to replow it up, because I have a feeling if I do the thing where I have to, like, replow that up, I'll have to, like, relime it or what stuff like that. But I do need to go and buy more seeds. So to clean this up real fast, I probably have enough seeds in that thing to do that little field. I'll probably not do that. I think you can overseed to switch crops. That's not something I'm worried about right now, but yeah, I believe you can. I believe if you reseed a field, it'll change the crop. The thing I'm talking about here is I've got, because I didn't double check the work on the AI carefully, this didn't get cultivated. I'll just come from this the other way. Too far over. It says in the first crop? Gotcha. Yeah, this is just the AI. The AI didn't do a good job. Which the AI does that. All right. Remember having issue with overseeding? Fields too close together. Yeah. It's also one of those things I just haven't had a need to do that at any point. Like, I think we've only had one time that I just straight up put the wrong thing in the ground someplace. What was that? It was one of, oh, it was I put oats down when I meant to put wheat down one time, that like one or two of my fields just had the wrong crop, which all I did is like, alright, well I've already spent the money on the seeds. Like, it still serves a purpose, it's just not quite as profitable as what I had intended. Alright. Then go here, get this going. And we can get this going over here. I am gonna have to restock on seeds and all that. That's just something I have to do. That's okay. Let's see. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to stream. One thing you saw someone do that helped you as well, was do the field edge manually, and then pass it to the AI. I mean, honestly, like I never did set it up. I probably will at some point. Was setting up. There is a. Like, I looked at the different mods that they have out there for, you know, making the workers' AI not incredibly awful. And stuff like that, or making it so even, like, when you have them take over your own vehicle. And the one I saw that I felt was the most reasonable is there's, like, a GPS mod. I was, like, guided steering or whatever system or whatever is what they call it, instead of, like, the actual GPS. But the gist of it is you would have to spend, I think it was like 15,000 to install an extra upgrade into your tractor, and then if you had that 15,000 upgrade, you could like you could basically drive the course once and be like, repeat that. What map am I on? I am on No Man's Land. But yeah. The problem with that is during the cultivation stage, it will kill the crop in the second field if it is growing. Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't tried to replace the seeds in existing field before. Especially in like a challenge run like this, it's kind of one of those things that if I've put down the first seeds, even if they're not going to be as lucrative, I've already invested a lot in putting those seeds down. I'm best served just riding it out and getting what money I get out of it. Like right now with all the production lines, it might be worth it to tear it all down and redo it, but that's right. I need to take this farther over. Go outside center. Yeah, no, Courseplay, like, so Courseplay and then, like, the GPS mod are the ones I've heard people recommend that's like, hey, as your farmer gets, you know, farm gets big, there's eventually a point that's like, you really don't want to manually do all of the fields. Like, you'll do a field and just leave the AI to handle your other fields or whatever, that kind of thing. And from what I've understood is Courseplay is a lot more complicated to set up, there's a lot more to it, but, you know, it's really good. And then the guidance system one was also like relatively easy to set up, but there's also like a game balancing of you have to like buy the module or whatever in your tractors, so you know there's a certain balance being like, okay, but you just don't get it for free. I haven't committed to either of them yet. I do know that's one of those things that I'll probably, when it comes to the run I've been doing on YouTube, eventually when the farm does get to that level where it's like, okay, I can't realistically do this all using the base game AI and not wanting to rip out my hair, I'll probably go with the GPS. But so you could use both mods together, and make it a rule to not use Courseplay without the GPS module. This is reasonable. I also need to figure it out. I don't mind tinkering and figuring it out on stream. That I'm okay with. I wouldn't want to do that in a YouTube video. Which has been one of the hesitations. I haven't been playing the game on stream hardly at all because there hasn't been much interest or desire for like me to play it lately. Like so far as from the community. So you know, if people don't seem to be super interested, then that kind of speaks for itself. I am to a certain degree beholden by the whims of chat. But yeah. It is something I should set up at some point. I joke about it's like, oh, it's something I should, you know, on my own time set up, tinker, figure it out, that kind of thing. And it's not wrong. But with as much as I stream with, you know, the 50 plus hours a week, I just don't have time. Like, it's one thing if I play just one game, it's much easier to justify putting a lot more time into figuring out mods and all that. But with the variety thing, it's way trickier. Because, like, to give you an example, I know after stream today, I have a lot of work to prepare for tomorrow, the sponsorship stuff. Because, like, it's not super invasive to the screen, but there is an overlay I gotta set up. There's, I don't think they had a profile badge, but usually a lot of them have profile badge. That's, like, all those things are only, like, 5 minutes each. Like, they're really not big thing. It's just the collection of all of the things does ultimately equate to a lot of time. Oh, that didn't really use much seeds at all. Not good enough. Sometimes you have an issue at work. You should do this, and this, and this. Oh god, using what time? Oh yeah, no, that's, I've had those discussions with bosses past that they're like, oh, we would like all the developers to, you know, to like potentially look into like test-driven development back. Like, don't get me wrong, I actually personally really like test-driven development. I do feel there are people who are like, you should always or you should never or stuff like they take those hard lines. I'm like, no, it's just like any other practice. There is times it is the way you should be doing things. There's times that it's probably not really worth it. And usually the example I will give is like, you know, if you're going to be making a large-scale application, it probably is worth your time to do test-driven development to force you to plan things out in advance before you start taking actions and all that. Whereas if you're just like putting together some quick and dirty console application that's going to run all of like once or twice in a full year, that all it does is kind of like move file, like take files and just consolidate data or something like that, like just one run. You don't need a test-driven development that. I mean, you can if you want, but usually even setting up the proper unit testing on something so small and infrequent ends up being a waste of time, just because setting it up to have like dependency injection or whatever your method of being able to separate out your concerns for unit testing is very over-engineering the problem. Which is part of the reason I think people get into such big heated debates about those things is it depends on what you're working on a lot of the times and how much or how little sense, you know, any given practice is. But yeah, there was plenty of times like, we should do this with our application. We should have, you know, proper code reviews. Like, cool, I'm gonna need you to give you a bunch more. Never, horse sniffer. You've ruined horse games for me forever. What was it? There was, oh man. There was a there was a game a while back that they gave me a key and I had debated playing it, and like the way, and it wasn't like misadvertised, but just like the marketing they used wasn't exactly clear what it was. And so I was looking at this game, it's like, okay, so it's like a farming simulator style game, but it's like primarily around horses. It's like, that sounds cool. And then I saw the game and I'm like, oh, this is a game designed for like tween girls. Like, and it's fine. Like, no judgment on anyone who would go to play it, but I'm like, oh, this is really not designed for my age bracket. This is meant for very young audience. Maybe I won't play that on stream. Like, don't get me wrong, I've actually low-key debated grabbing the farm sim for kids that came out, or is coming out. They have keys available to get it. And I have actually debated picking that up and playing it on stream, knowing 100% that the target demographic for that is like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12-year-olds. But because I play Farm Sim on the channel, it's like, you know, let's see what their children's take is on the game. And I'm sure from the way it looks, it's like more like there'll be chickens who like drag the corn or whatever to the chickens, and then, you know, the chickens will lay eggs and be like, you got eggs. Like, it's designed for small children. Like that is the target demographic for that. It is that style of game. But I could actually see it being kind of fun to, you know, not as like a full 9-hour stream or something, but as a short, like, you know, hop into it and look at it for like an hour kind of thing. That could be fun or all that. So since you had that discussion with a colleague yesterday, wrote a script that does 98% of the work. They were like, but it doesn't complete a specific attribute correctly. And almost told them they're banned from using the script. If they have an issue, they can, with 7 attributes being up to a specific standard. Good for a laugh. Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things that you can actually can lead to informed discussion as well. Not even like, you know, yeah, it's about farming. But there's a lot of times that people outside of specifically dealing with education don't really understand a lot of stuff when it comes to, you know, instructional theory, education theory, and all those kind of things, and different things you can do to help encourage success in your learners, yada, yada, yada. That a lot of people are like, this is the way I taught, so I'm going to teach my children this way because sure, I turned out okay or whatever. And then it just doesn't land. And they just kind of double and triple and quadruple down there, you know. And it unfortunately does get parents to get frustrated with their kids being like, well, you're not applying yourself or whatever. And that's not really the problem necessarily. It might, like, it can be. But a lot of times there's more to it than that. But it's just some like different people have different modes of learning that they're better at. Like some people are better about internalizing information that they read. Some people are better about, you know, like that. So it's like reading it doesn't do anything for them. Lecture is generally terrible. You use it because it's one of the only ones that scales really well. But then you get into stuff like, you know, the learn by doing, like having someone read a book versus having someone write stuff from, like, write to a book. Which one are they going to learn grammar easier? Probably writing, because you're making them actually do it and figure it out, versus reading it is more just reviewing an example. But there's a lot more to that as well. Some students need far more hands-on instructional styles where, like, the teacher kind of walks them through everything with them there. Other students, you can be like, here's the instructions, go do, and are perfectly content. But there's a lot that goes into navigating that to try and provide whatever the best system you can so far as supporting that is possible. Because you treat all the students like the same, you're just going to fail half your students. And then the issue is, when it comes to teaching, even if it's like your own kids, like you only have like 2-3 kids or whatever, even then, like a parent trying to take the time to help 2-3 different kids in a night with their homework spreads them thin. That, like, if the kids are like really struggling with a subject, it's just a subject that's just not landing for them, like even just 2-3 kids can absolutely gobble up your time, where you just can't really give them the amount of time and attention they need to just walk them all through it. So it is figuring out how to bridge that gap. It's not even only kids, it's also adults. Just usually when you're talking education, you usually think of like grade school and all that. But I mean, just the same, you know, learning software development. The same approach isn't going to work for everyone. So you gotta be adaptable. Alright, how's the size? Maybe. Nope. One bigger. I'd rather overkill it and waste a little bit of herbicide and fertilizer than just not, like, have to do a whole extra pass for, like, the tiniest little strip. Because that means I won't really have saved much. But yeah, it could be an interesting thing tackling that. Like, that's, part of the thing that made my courses so good when I did is we would teach in multiple modalities. You'd have what's effectively a lecture component, you'd have a hands-on component, you'd have a more, like, guided instruction if you need it kind of thing, which came to the point that you'd actually go to do it. We had ways you could kind of get as much or as little guidance as you needed. That we would let you try, and then if you just got stuck, or you know you just kept getting it wrong, we would breadcrumb you towards the solution. Which breadcrumbing towards the solution is like, if you're declaring a variable, instead of being like, here's how you declare a variable, we'd be like, hey, you know, we noticed you didn't put a data type on it. You know, like, you could probably try putting a data type here. What data type would go with that or whatever? And then, you know, if you're just really stuck, eventually we will just be like, hey, here's the thing you need to move on. Because sure, it means you didn't learn that one thing, but if you're going into a course that's covering like 20 or 30 different topics and you get stuck on one, you don't want to lose the other 29 topics because they couldn't get past that one. You know, they can always circle back and learn the one they're missing later. Because at the end you can go, here's all the things you learned, and like, here's one that's a problem, like, you know, you can try retaking our course here, or that at least lets you know what to go into, you know, some Google, or sorry, into like some other application and be like, hey, I struggled on this topic. Not that I had much of that, but it would be a choice. If, like, for whatever reason our lesson wasn't landing with you, you would now know what you need to know to seek out a, you know, someone else's lesson to help you out. Alright. I'm going to drop the sprayer off here real fast. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to switch over to the other tractor. Since it's no longer needed to do the seeding. And we'll have it take over for the fertilizer, and then we're done for the in-game day, and it's time to move on to the next one. That's the last of the herbicide. Okay. And then once I start filling up the next one. So yeah, so if we go to our seasons here. So we plant the sorghum in April. So that'll be the next time we need to worry about stuff going on a meaningful capacity. I believe we sell in like January or something like that, because we'll be selling the bread. Yeah, so it's December, January, that area is when we sell. So that'll help a lot. Okay. Yeah, so herbicide, we probably have enough for one more. Well, actually, probably have enough for doing the sorghum fields, is what I'll say. I was going to say one more season. I'm like, oh yeah, no, the sorghum fields. I believe we've got probably 2 seasons worth of fertilizer. And then that'll be good. One of the other things I intend on doing is making more paths through everything. It's like where I made that road way early on. I definitely intend to expand on that. Like when I buy the warehouse, I'll probably take the time to put down like what's effectively a parking lot around the grain mill and the warehouse, as well as make like a little parking lot for the bakery. Okay. So it shouldn't take as long to get through these. That is the one nice thing, is doing the fertilizer and the herbicide and all that goes relatively quick. This is the one process that I was like, oh, I definitely want to get a mod for like GPS or whatever. Because the AI in the base game, this is the one process more than any other process. It just, you say go and it just kind of turns its head sideways and fails immediately. It's so bad at it. Like plowing, it gets pretty janky. It'll try and turn with the plow dragging behind it and tip the tractor and all that a little bit. But it still manages, versus this, it straight up does like half a pass and goes, I don't know what to do. Hey, Tutti Curie, it's good to see you. The farming is going pretty good. We switched over to it. We were gonna do RimWorld, but they had like a little update, and my cursor wasn't showing up on screen, which is a little bit of a bummer, but that's fine. I've been mostly on a RimWorld break, waiting for the update. If I have a mod here, if I could not drive like a maniac, but if I could have someone give a shout out for Tutti Curie, I'd appreciate that. Otherwise, I can get it here in a moment. Oh yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the DLC for RimWorld big time. They had like a update to their unstable branch that my mouse cursor wasn't showing up on the screen at all. Like I could go to the preview in OBS and see my mouse, but on my actual screen, no mouse cursor. Like, and I was just like, I need that. I need to see where I'm trying to click. This is a difficulty level for RimWorld I don't need in my life. It might be just me so far as this. Let me get a moment and go shout out Tutti Curie. For those who don't know Tutti Curie, absolutely a fantastic content creator. I really, really enjoy their content. But definitely someone to check out. Plays RimWorld among many other games. Lots of good games over there. Lots of indie games get played over there, a whole bunch. So definitely someone I'd strongly recommend. Someone that, when I'm able to catch them, I like to tune in any chance I get. The downside is Tutti Curie is usually online while I'm asleep. But if I wake up especially early, or I go to bed real late, I do manage to catch a little bit here and there. But definitely an excellent time. That's a good one where if you're trying to watch this stream and you catch just like the beginning and the end of my stream, because, you know, that's just the hours you're awake, good chance you're awake for Tutti Curie. Also another member of the Halcyon Frequency stream team. Same with your stream times, I mean. Yeah, no, I used to catch a lot more of yours, and my sleep schedule has changed over time. And I'm actually low-key trying to change it back. Like, the stream schedule stays the same, but my sleep schedule. Because I have done that thing where you stay up late, and the amount you stay up late just creeps a little bit more and a little bit more. And I'm reaching that point where it's like, no, I need to, like, drag it kicking and screaming back, because I need to be able to spend more time with my wife, Tomb, and to do that, I need to fix my sleep schedule. It's always so hard for me to correct my sleep schedule. The way I used to be able to do it was just completely exhaust myself till I had nothing left to give, and then, you know, pass the heck out, and then it's kind of like hard reset it, but it doesn't work anymore. I've tried. There's like a certain point in my like late 20s, early 30s that strategy, it's like my body was like, stop it. I'm just gonna make you tired is what I'm gonna do when you do that. That's how that's gonna play out. But yeah, no, it's good having you on. I'm assuming you are up early? Yes. Yeah, you're up particularly early today? Yep. Trying to think of what time it'd be there. Because it's probably 6 hours difference? 7 hours difference would be my guess? I actually don't know off the top of my head. I'm trying to go, like, mentally what I remember Germany being different from me, and then, like, add one kind of thing. Very early, sadly. Oh, you had trouble sleeping over the past month? Ah, that's no fun and very relatable. 7:18 a.m.? Gotcha. Yeah, that's no fun. Quick says, you thought that was just you that happened to? You used to reset the same way and can't anymore? I think it's like a thing that just happens as you get older, and the way, like, you know, there's all the things that just change with, like, your internal clocks and all that, that there are certain strategies you can use when you're younger that just don't work as well. You know, you start hitting the point where your body's like, nah, we're not doing this. Like, I've been doing this for 30 years. You're cut off. Yeah, sorry your sleep's been so messed up. But yeah, no, I was like, all right, I'm gonna fix my sleep schedule. I'm gonna, you know, end stream, do like the 2-3 things that have to get done, and go straight to bed. So I get to bed extra early. And I got even less sleep because I couldn't get to sleep. And I couldn't get to sleep past the normal time I would normally get to sleep. I'm like, come on, body. Why do you have to be this way? So it just royally has messed up my sleep this past month. Which the worst thing is that, you know, I was talking to Tomb about being like, hey, like, I'm gonna try to fix my sleep schedule, like, and all that, because, you know, we want to do more stuff together. So it's basically saying, like, hey, I'm gonna try and fix my sleep schedule so I have more time and all that. And it was like the moment I did then tried to fix it was the moment my sleep schedule got completely ruined. I'm like, why? You need to use warm milk or coffee to fall asleep easier? Warm coffee. Well, I don't like coffee, so that doesn't help me. We usually don't have warm milk. Now, I do fully understand the... I can't remember what the... I think it was an enzyme that milk has when... And when we're saying warm milk here, we're not, like, talking microwave it, but, you know, not cold or whatever. But it says, lurking, but this really resonates with me. So you have a comment. You have narcolepsy, and it happens to you so much, and as a result, it forces me to sleep at odd times, which messes up my schedule. And you just turned 30, and thought the thought of the hard reset strategy not working anymore sounds terrifying. Yeah, if you find a solution, give me a ring. I am looking. That said, everyone is obviously different and all that. But, like, yeah. That's, I'm definitely not someone who's ever dealt with narcolepsy, which, for those who don't know what that is a condition that tends to cause people to fall asleep effectively at random. There's more to it. It's not a condition I'm actually particularly well versed in. There's a lot of conditions I know, but that's one I don't actually have much background with, working with people with it. But yeah. So it is one of those things that I could only imagine it having, like, random middle of the day unscheduled naps, undesired unscheduled naps. I could absolutely see where that can derail the sleep schedule pretty hard. Hey, Vitez, how's it going? Yeah, no, that's gotta be frustrating. I do hope whatever mitigation strategies or whatever they do have for that do help you out. Because again, it's a condition I'm actually particularly uninformed on. Most of the stuff I'm like really aware with is a lot of them are, I mean, it's not just invisible disabilities. Like, it's stuff like neurodivergent stuff I'm very knowledgeable on. I'm knowledgeable on accessibility stuff like color deficiency, hearing loss, limited motor function, you know, stuff like whether they need wheelchairs or they have mobility problems in their hands and wrists or whatever. Motion sickness, which isn't a disability in most cases, but is still an accessibility thing. Let's see, severe narcolepsy is when people just straight up fall asleep. You have a moderate version where you get tired really quickly and easily. It's not as bad as it could be, but you got medications that help, so it's relatively okay. Oh, that's good, because I assumed medication was going to be the solution for that, but like I said, it's one of those ones I haven't dealt with. Like, I've done a lot of understanding for accessibility around epilepsy, but that is also another condition that, like, I am aware of the things you do to avoid triggering it, while also being incredibly uninformed on the condition itself, like what biologically is actually happening and, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot out there, and it takes me time to learn it. That said, a lot of things are making good progress. Which is always good. That was it's not been like confirmed or anything yet. There was a study not too long back about, you know, they're trying to figure out what actually causes ADHD and autism. Like, there's a lot of stuff they know contribute to it, but like actually being like, hey, let's try and pin down like things that we can identify that if we see this we go, okay, you know, this is a person who probably has it, not just based on symptoms, but, you know, either like a genetic marker or whatever. Like, you know, measure some enzyme and it's deficient, like whatever, like that kind of thing. And the problem is, so far, there hasn't been anything rock solid. But my understanding was, I believe it was Sweden, unrelated to all of this, had this whole thing where it was something like 16,000 kids from like birth all the way on to, I believe they're young adults now, that what they've been doing is they've just had them check in, like do blood work and do all this, like for basically their whole life, like go in and do all of these screenings to just collect a bunch of data about health in this like large group of people. That way, for people doing research and all that, they have, you know, this group that they just have this large amount of health data on, that, you know, for screening and all that sort of stuff, that they can go through and figure it out. And which is remarkable. It's like the first I had heard of it, and I'm pretty sure it was 16,000 kids. I'm not. Well, they're adults now, but one of the things they observed is, of those kids, there was something like 7.6% developed ADHD, or had ADHD. I shouldn't say developed. Had ADHD, got diagnosed, and they found a very, very, very high occurrence of those kids taking antibiotics at a particularly young age, like pretty strong stuff that has been known to mess with gut bacteria, as well as for other people, you know, other kids who got diagnosed with other conditions that also affect gut bacteria. And so there is a pretty significant correlation they're finding about stuff that would really throw your gut bacteria off balance at like the age of like 1, 2, or 3. And people ultimately having ADHD and autism later on in life. Now again, it's a data point, so it's not strong enough to be like, there, we know, we've learned. But it's one of those things where, like, okay, you know, that might be a significant contributing factor that, you know, something early on in life, you know, developmentally messes with it. Who knows? Like, there's a lot of stuff that we figure that kind of thing out later, that, whatever. Fun fact, you basically have a second brain in our gut. Trust your gut feelings. Well, I know your guts have lots of signals that go to your brain to teach you, like, to do a lot of things. Like, your gut actually does have a lot of programming to it. And, like, it can completely swing the way you feel good, you know, good, bad, or otherwise in seconds if there's any confusion on those signals. And they've also found that, like, you know, gut health, especially like the bacteria, affects way more than we realized. It's one of the reasons that they're actually starting to get, like, one of many reasons they're starting to get a lot stricter, you know, they're getting a lot stricter about what antibiotics you use for what. It's because a lot of antibiotics really do a number on your gut health. And it's not that you shouldn't take antibiotics. Like, if you have a bacterial infection that's, you know, potentially dangerous, yeah, you take your antibiotics. If you've just had a type of surgery that is infection risk, i.e. anything dental, you know, take your antibiotics. Dry socket is no joke. It kills you. Or it can kill you. Let's see, book says, yeah, some things seem unintuitive origins. Narcolepsy is similar to that, actually. They've done similar studies around ADHD one. And they heavily suspect it's an autoimmune disorder, only if you have the gene that predisposition. When you're saying autoimmune, I may not be familiar with the term. Is that the same as autoimmune, or is that something totally different? Okay, autoimmune. Okay, that's what I thought. I was just like, there's so many terms, especially when you get into biology, that people say this thing is like, did you mean this? Like, nope, I was right. Like, okay. Like, there's another word right next to mitochondria that it's like only a couple letters different. It means a totally different thing. And every time I see it, I'm like, you mean mitochondria? And they're like, no, it's this totally different other thing. It's like, oh, okay, never mind. It's the powerhouse of the cell. Don't you know? Alright, so we have planted, we have fertilized, we have herbicide, we have done the second round of fertilize, and we're good there. Lisa said, you had a really bad, you know, a really bad infection, and they put you on an antibiotic and didn't think I had before. After a few days, I couldn't understand anything. People could explain that 2 + 2, and I wasn't able to comprehend. That was, oh man, what was it for? It was something dental. Oh, it was, I had a dentist that was like a really crap dentist, had done a crown and had messed it up, and so like the crown was like protruding out farther than the other teeth, so it ended up a long time later cracking the tooth on the other side. So like the tooth literally split. Negative 30,000 out of 10. Do not recommend having a tooth literally split in half. It's a bad time. It's about as bad as it sounds. And what ended up happening was, you know, they extracted the tooth and all that, and they put me on an antibiotic, and it's one I had never been on before. And I had been writing a mobile application for Windows Phone at the time, and it was like nowhere near done. Like, it was still kind of in the prototype stage of like first figuring stuff out. And I woke up the next day having no memory of what happened, and just looking in my email and seeing an email. It's like, you know, thank you for your you know, application submission, for like submitting my application to be put onto like the Windows Phone store. And I was like, oh my god, what did I do last night? And apparently I become just some like guru of knocking out software at ridiculous speeds on that stuff, which is its own terrifying prospect of going, okay, apparently if I take this, I'm immensely productive and I lose memory. It's like, that is not, that is something you make a movie about. Like, that's like the click kind of thing or whatever. That said, I did like actually release it. Ended up having one pretty bad bug that I had to fix. But I mean, all things considered, it went well. Never touch that stuff. Never touch that stuff again. Oh no, I wouldn't. I would not. Absolutely not. Having gaps in your memory is real scary stuff. I am not a fan of just having, like, you know, I know something happened between X and Y, and I was there, but also I don't remember any of it. That is honestly pretty scary stuff to me. On one hand, yes, please. On the other hand, no. Just set up a camera beforehand? Yeah, no. Like, that is the kind of stuff that, like, makes me super uncomfortable. Is like the idea of, like, there's a reason that, you know, I've been around friends who would get, like, blackout drunk or whatever, and it was one of those things that was like a solid absolutely not, I'm not interested, don't want to, no interest in doing this whatsoever. Because the idea of being, like, blackout, like, just, again, oh yeah, you partied hard, you don't remember it? Well, that's a bummer, you had a good time. Like that, it's like, no, I'm someone who's very, like, cause I'm authentically who I am. Like, I'm not worried about doing stuff that, like, you know, I would regret later on in life. Like, so at a point I was like, oh yeah, you did this terrible thing, man. Like, I'm not worried about that kind of thing at all. But still, like, you never know when something's gonna happen and all that, and it can get real sketchy and all that. And just gaps in memory, or like compromising like mental faculties and all that. That stuff, those are the kind of symptoms of stuff that really make me worry. Conscious brain shut down, and your subconscious started working as the primary. Something like that. I mean, so it's a joke that, hey, Simplex, how's it going? It's a joke that I think it was XKCD had way back. What was it? The Balmer ratio, if I remember, I think was the title of it. Which there was it was basically a gag that, you know, if a developer has, like, a drink, just like a singular drink, just enough to, like, get the edge off. It's the same thing, like, where, you know, they joke about how having a, you know, having you know, a beer or a glass of wine or whatever can be a socializing lubricant, where it gives you just enough to, like, kind of get ahead of anxiety and all that, where you can just kind of move forward without overthinking stuff. And similar. But the gist of it was that software developers, they get the same thing. They get, like, so caught up in the weeds of what you're trying to do that, you know, you end up being not productive because you're overthinking everything. And so then you have, like, a drink or two, and you're just kind of like, heck with it, let's roll. And so you become more productive. This isn't a thing I believe in so far as an actual strategy, just to be clear. But it was the joke about the comic, which, you know, the gist of the comic was that Windows Vista came about when they gave all the developers, you know, their full year's allotment of alcohol in advance, and they didn't properly, what's the word I want to use? They didn't properly schedule it out. Which, you know, XKCD, fun comic, whatever. But it was the joke of how, you know, one of the best and worst versions of Windows got released under the same, like, person in charge of Microsoft happened. And it was, like, the idea that they came up with this ratio, and then they had, like, the flub where they just mismanaged it. Which there's no basis on reality for that, by the way. Microsoft do like to occasionally have their alcohol-featured community-building kind of events, but they don't, you know, they don't have a bottle of bourbon in every developer's desk or something. That said, one of the single most productive teams I've ever been on for software developers, we did have Mimosa Mondays, and we did have Whiskey Wednesdays. And that's not counting, like, probably once or twice a month we would have team building, well, team events you could go to that, you know, they were alcohol optional. And we had lots of stuff that didn't revolve around, you know, alcohol for those who do not partake. Or, you know, those who need to not partake. Like, they did try to make sure stuff, like, we had, like, ping pong stuff. It was very startup-y. If you're not reading behind the lines, you hear all the memes about startups. It was basically that. Alright, so we got the bread and all that cycled. Let's check on our greenhouses. They're all good. Let's check on our animals. They'll need more water. Not too long, but they're all good. So we move forward another month. Basically, we're trying to get to, I believe the next thing that happens is we get to the selling point for our flour and bread. Then we will get to April, which is when we plant the sorghum and we sell the wool. So we've got everything set up. We're just kind of riding out to payday. All right. Yeah, so let's top off the water. It's been wild, like, the career I've been on. So, like, I've worked local and federal government as a software developer. I've worked education. I've worked like big corporate software development. I've also worked startup. It's been wild, like, having that many different arenas I play in, which is also fun because then you hop into, like, stuff and you'll have people who are very grass is greener. That, you know, like, oh, this type of situation doesn't run into that, and you're like, actually, it does. Hate to ruin your fun, but yeah, no, this problem you're dealing with, yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're government or education or small or large team. It's just a thing you deal with. It's just the nature of the job. It's not fun to hear it, but, you know, it is what it is. That's why you use the rubber duck method works? Oh yeah, no, rubber ducky, talk to the duck. Talk to the duck is easily one of the single most powerful tools for problem solving. Which, for those who aren't familiar, there's a couple names for the same thing. There's Talk to the Duck, Ask Bob. Let's see. Do you think we're living in a computer simulation? No. No. Very no. But yeah. They're all the same phenomena, that the idea behind it is you find someone else that you try to explain a problem to. And that person should be treated as if they have no idea what on earth you're talking about. Hence, like, a rubber duck or whatever. The point isn't to have a conversation. The entire point behind the exercise is to force you to break down your problem such that you can explain it to someone who would have no clue about your problem. So it can be the idea of, like, you know, Ask Bob, which is just kind of, you know, walk over to some random person, like walk over to, like, Bob in marketing or whatever and be like, hey, I need to talk to you about this incredibly technical thing that, as a marketing person who does not work in this thing, you probably have no idea about, because why would you? And so then you sit there and you know, it forces you to not be in the middle of, like, whatever you're working on. It forces you to, like, step back farther and farther and farther. And a lot of times in that stepping back, if it's forcing you to think through the problem from the beginning again, so that if you're kind of caught up deep in the weeds, that you go back out to the surface level and, you know, rethink it. Because there's absolutely a thing that can happen where you're trying to troubleshoot a problem in software developer, and you'd be like, oh, this... It's very clearly the payment processor. And so you dig in the payment processor, start looking for the issue, and really it's the thing that takes you to the payment processor that's the problem, that the payment processor is working fine, but, like, the thing you're feeding it to start with is not right. But because you're down in the weeds, and you're just scratching your head being like, I cannot figure out where this issue is, you're just kind of looking at the problem from the wrong way. And that's where, you know, talk to the rubber duck, ask Bob, whatever you want to call it. comes in. Because then again, you know, you get the rubber duck and go, okay, I have this thing. So the way this thing works is the person goes here and they click on the, you know, they go and they do this, and that generates an order, which generates a payment, and then we take the payment, we send it out, and then that's when you realize, like, oh wait, the payment, like, that could come through there. Glitches and deja vu. I mean, glitches in real life aren't a thing. Deja vu is just, your memory is very imperfect in recording information. So quite often it will give you the feeling that you've already seen something before, but it's just memory is pretty crap. Very, very genuinely, it is one of those things that's really upsetting, that memory is just really bad. Like, straight up memory is one of the least reliable things you can have as far as procedure. So if you want to get into that, the way I usually describe memory is, we like to think of it as like, you know, you broke out your camera and you recorded an event that, you know, you've got it. But that's not really true. Memory is very malleable, very unreliable. So it's a lot more like, you saw something, you broke out your tablet, you got a stick of charcoal, and you started writing down what you saw. And as you wrote it down, you smudged a little bit of your charcoal as you're going along. And then over time, you like stack it and you move it around and you're smudging it more and more. And so what ends up happening is there's parts of that information that is no longer legible. And so what you might go and do later is you might go, oh, okay, can't quite make this out. And you try and you fill in the gaps. And so as time goes on, your recording of that information gets a little bit less good each little bit that goes by. And this is a very, very flawed review of that, by the way. But the point being more that memory is really garbage. Let's see, how do you not go crazy working remote? Serious question. It just doesn't bother me. There's definitely stuff you do lose working remote, and I worked remote long before streaming. A good couple years as a software developer. That was wild. But it's just kind of one of those things. Like, for me, having a space that, like, this is my working space really helped, because one, it was hard to focus if I didn't have it, and two, it made it a lot more easy for me to be like, I'm in work mode, I'm in not work mode kind of thing. So like, work get out of the way when I'm not in the working time frame. And not everyone has that availability, but it's basically having something as your, like, both a flag for yourself, you know, and anyone else who might share your house, being like, hey, I'm on the clock right now. You know, it's not that you can't bother me kind of thing, but like, just be aware there's kind of limits on how much we can go into that. And the company I'd worked for was like really lax as long as I got my work done. They didn't really care. But it is a thing. Another thing I would go out of my way to do is to get the heck out of the house. So especially with the software dev, because I had a lot more money to throw around, it was very regularly for lunch I would go out to like the local Tex-Mex place or whatever, and I would sit outside, even if the weather wasn't the best, just to get some time outside and out, you know, among the people or whatever, even if I'm not socializing with anyone, because I honestly don't want to, just kind of being out and away from the home for a little while really helps not go like, you know, just not like go stir crazy just sitting at home all the time. That said, there's some people it's just not a good fit. Just like, thank you for the follow, welcome to the stream. Just like going into the office and being forced to be around a whole bunch of people in like an open office plan where there's noises and everything there is a really bad fit for some people's being productive. There's some people who just working from home is not really great. Let's see. Deja vu is when your brain is trying to pull up a memory and for some weird reason it overrides with what's happening in the present. Yeah, I don't know biologically how it works, but it is just one of those things that memory is pretty crap. Let's see, you had deja vu, and it's always been information that's completely random and useless. Oh yeah, no, it'll be something like, you'll see a cat do something, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen a cat do that before. And you go, wait, this is the same thing. Like, it'll be something like really dumb, or like deja vu, like you see, like you have a conversation with someone, like, wait, I've had this conversation before. But then it ends up not. The Matrix. The first one's a pretty good movie. The other two, you know, they're movies. They're not terrible. They're definitely not the first one, though. It's an issue when you first start working at home. Family thought. They could just drop everything and go something 15, 20 minutes. It's like, I can't do that all the time. Yeah, now Tomb has been really good about a lot of that stuff. Like, it was kind of one of those things that when I first went remote, we just had a conversation. Not like a big, like, major conversation, but just be like, hey, I'm going to be working from, you know, from home. Like, I can't, like, I am working. And she's been super understanding and reasonable about it. Let's see, you're still having a problem with my folks. They just won't get it. You were in a work meeting with headphones on, the mic boom down, obviously talking. And they asked loudly to put laundry to dry. Yeah. I can sympathize with not getting it. Because it's just not, like, especially if they're not working in a situation that remote work is something they have the option of. I can understand that being a bit difficult to adapt to. At the same time, it's like, I don't expect you to understand, but at the same time, I expect you to respect that I'm saying, for my job, you can't do this. Like, I am actively working on the clock being paid. You know, this is like walking up to me while I'm, you know, in my cubicle at my computer and then asking me to run home and do the laundry. It's like, very obviously I'm not going to be able to do that. Not unless it's some, like, dire emergency, which I don't know how laundry would be that way. But, you know, insert other chore that maybe could be a dire emergency, like running to the pharmacy to pick something up for you or whatever. Let's see, by the other two, you mean the other three? Soon to be 4, right? I've lost track after that. I don't actually go watch very many movies these days. Like, I mean, I never was a huge movie goer, but it's, I just don't end up watching a whole lot of movies. Yeah, you'd sympathize with them more if you didn't have to have the conversation like 6 times accounting. Yeah, and that's absolutely on them at that point. Like, unless your schedule's like all over the place, at which point then, you know, it can be harder for them to engage. But yeah, for me, when I've had to deal with people not being able to know when I'd work, I would have something like, hey, if this door is closed, it means absolutely, like, I am in, like, meeting, I cannot talk to you, like, right now, like, I'm in the middle of something. Which that was usually my signal with Tomb, was like, when I was in a meeting, I would close my door. I couldn't do that all day because, my god, it gets so hot in here. But that was kind of the, hey, I'm, like, in a meeting, you know, working with someone else, like co-working, whatever. Like, I'm in a situation that, unless you, like, you're hurt or something and I need to, like, it's an actual emergency, I need to work. And I never had a problem with it. But it is those things that makes me thankful I'm not living with my, not, like, it makes me thankful that this wasn't how I started my career, like, with remote stuff. Because when I was still at my parents' house, just the layout of her house, my room was between my older and younger brother's bedrooms, and it became a real problem for me that people would use my room as a hallway, even though there was an actual hallway they could have used instead. And it would only add, like, a couple of feet onto walking around the room kind of thing. And I do know when I became, like, late teens, I finally got tired of it. And while my mom was, like, super pissed off about it, you know, she also didn't force me to change it, which was kind of the, I understand that she really didn't like it, but also she understood why I did it, is I took a dresser and I closed one of the doors, and I took, like, the big dresser with all the clothes and I put it blocking one of the doors, which, again, her mom being upset was that was the nearest exit I was blocking, but it was also the direction more likely to have a fire on it kind of thing. So I was blocking what was most likely going to be like in an emergency the way I would escape. But at the same time, I don't want to mention which family member, but I had a family member who, no matter how many times, like, don't walk through my room. It is not a hallway. Like, I want my own privacy, my own space. You go around. And so it wasn't until I blocked that door and it was no longer available as a way to pass through that they finally that behavior did stop, so I could actually have some privacy in the evenings and all that. Grace says, parents are worse in your experience when it comes to remote work. Your wife has been great, but I've had a few times that I've heard my mother-in-law ask what my problem was after she has been arguing loudly with my wife directly behind the desk chair. While I was in a meeting, so eventually I had to relocate to the bedroom and shut the door. I'm fortunate that's not been a problem. I feel like with my family, I mean, one, they don't live here. And it's not that they don't come by, but it's not super often. So I do feel like it ends up being a thing that's not super bad because of, like, lack of amount. But it's kind of one of those things, I feel like parents on both sides, they know they don't understand the situation, and they haven't been super judgmental about it. I've had a couple conversations where it did feel like, not alluding to anything, but it did feel like, parents worry. Is what it boils down to. Parents worry. Oh, I shouldn't pull forward yet. But, that they're like, it's almost like you're doing alright and everything, like, are you planning for stuff? And it's like, it's fine. But that wasn't even remote working. That's been doing content creation. And to be fair, content creation does not pay well. Like, it very genuinely does not pay well. I was making way, way more before I switched into content creation. But, it is kind of one of those things that I have been burned so many times by, like, companies being acquired and moving around and doing all these things that I'm genuinely just tired of working my tail off, making companies tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then not even getting a bonus. And so you're like, okay, I'm being paid being paid well, but not well enough that it does not sting to be like, hey, I've made this company, I made you literally buku bucks. And I'm not expecting you to, toss the full volume or anything ridiculous at me. But I would expect a little kickback of some kind, being like, hey, you netted us this big contract that's going to literally pay for pretty much everything in the company for the next, 3-4 years. Hey, throw a little something my way, a % or so. But nah. And then it gets sold, and then they lay people off, and it's get a pizza party, but limited 2 slices. The company wasn't that bad. The company I worked for wasn't that bad. We're like, pizza's the best we can do. You have limited amount. It happens every Friday. Asking meeting that locked. Or meeting, asking a mindful. Mandatory meeting every week. Yeah, that's I don't know. Obviously I'm not in your situation. That's kind of those things you would almost I feel like I'd be like, why do you not respect my situation? Why are you trying to jeopardize my career? And they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, look, here's the deal. I'm trying to tell you it is important that you do not do this thing, that I must have a space that I can, I can work and have meetings and all that. This is my office. You gotta manage. Let's see. I see your mic boom arm is down. You're working or something? Do not disturb. So, do you want salad? From the door, play inside that the boom is down. Yeah. Yeah, obviously it's not an easy thing. So the thing is, the flour is on a good price, but the bread is not quite there yet. So let's double check our prices. So bread, supposed to get up to 70. Oh, the bread's not good. Why didn't we get the alert for that? Okay, so it's selling day. That's what's going on. Alright, so with that, what we're going to go ahead and do is it is time to make some heckin' money. So what's going to end up happening here is I'm going to kick this one out here. And it is time to make cash. So first of all, I'm going to grab some of this flour. And we can top off the bakery. So we know it's got enough flour to last for the next full year. And then once the bakery is full, we will sell the rest of the flour and the bread. And we should be walking away with... I'm trying to remember how much we were making. Was it like 100,000, 80,000 or something? That was just this part of it? Work meeting time? Well, you have a good work meeting. Yeah, now it's kind of one of the things that, at least for me, when it comes like this, and this goes like, you know, for different working situations, neurodivergence, disability, like all those things, you know, I don't expect people to understand. That's fine. It's actually totally fine to not understand what people are dealing with, but you gotta respect it. Hey, Killer Fun, it's been doing pretty good. Good to see you. So like, you know, it's not in someone's place to challenge, like, oh, are you working or whatever, like that kind of crap. Like, I have zero patience with that kind of thing. But, if someone's like, hey, you know, because of work stuff, I need you to not bother me, like, right now. You're not expected to understand that it's totally fine if you don't understand it. But the fact is, you gotta respect it. Because I'm not, like, people aren't saying that for just no reason. Yeah, you'll have the person who, they come up with excuses to not do things and all that, sure. But that's just kind of the thing. Then the problem is, like, the thing's not getting done, not the work meetings or whatever, and you have that conversation. Like, hey, laundry's not getting done? Don't go and, like, harp on people for, like, what activities they're doing or whatever. Go, hey, the laundry's not getting done. And, you know, figure out how that can get sorted. Alright, pretty soon this will fill up, probably about halfway through the next load. Let's see, if your office wasn't 4.5, 5 hours away, you would at least one day a week go to the office, mostly just to have one day out of the house. There is a slim chance that you might relocate to a larger city next year, and that'll be 1 to 1.5 hours away. Yeah. No, I do think, while it was harder for people to manage, I did like the hybrid situation I had for a little while before it went fully remote, which is we would have 3 days a week in office, 2 days a week from home, and it was extremely flexible where if you had a reason that you wanted to be home more like that week, no problem, fine. Okay. Alright, so the bakery is all full. So I'll go grab some of the flour from over here to top off this load and start selling. Yeah, and I very much, if I had to choose between in office and remote, the answer is remote 99.9% of the time. Like, not having to drive from work and, like, getting 2 extra hours back of your life every single day if you've got an hour-long commute, or even just 1 hour if you have a half-hour commute. Like, that's cutting down your workday by over 10% in a lot of cases. Why would I not want to do that? I've also learned, as I don't have to commute place, my desire to drive has just absolutely plummeted. I can still do it fine, and I still do commute places when I need to for whatever. But it's very much like, hey, do you want to drive, you know, several hours to go to this place? Not really. I have to be, like, really interested in the thing on the other side and be like, yeah, I'll deal with traffic today. you just start to recognize more and more how much time you spend in your car driving back and forth. Hey, Hyman, how's it going? That just very, very genuinely, my tolerance for driving has been way lower. I should be using the art tractor, I think. I think the art tractor can go the whole 25. I just got in the habit that this tractor I usually have sitting around, and I didn't use the art tractor because it costs more to do maintenance. But that'll be quite a bit faster. Okay. It also doesn't help that there's a lot of places nearby me that have bad traffic. Very touristy area. Alright, so we'll drop off this tractor, grab the better tractor so I can go faster. I shouldn't say better tractor. Well, I mean, it is a better tractor. Okay. The other thing is, while we're driving back, let's check the prices. Anything interesting on sale? That's a smaller sprayer. And we don't care about these things. So, no. Okay. But yeah, this is the reason why I want to get the semi. Because if we get the semi, then what I can end up doing here is I can move way more pallets per lap, and I can go almost 50 miles per hour, as opposed to the 15 we're going now. So that'll massively cut down the turnaround time for a lot of this stuff. Okay. We've got the bread. Let's detach this, turn off our lights. And for just the moment, I'm going to park this over here. Because this will be way faster. I'll also need to check. I'm trying to remember when the strawberries and all that need to be sold. I remember it's pretty close. I think it's like literally next in-game month. We can check. Where is strawberries? Yeah. So it'll be next in-game month. So we'll do all the sale of this today, then all the greenhouse stuff tomorrow. And then the day after that, oh sorry, 2 days after that is the thing. Nearly everything is January. Yeah. It would be nice if there's a few things that weren't, a few more things, I should say, that weren't January. Do you not have... You're still processing stuff, right? Oh yeah, you have so much left to process. That's right. Every year I end up with like 2-3 rows of flour that don't come out of the grain mill until after it's like the sell season, because you know the grain mill is running near solid. Ooh, almost dumped it. It's fine. I would just tipped it back up. It wouldn't be any loss, but no need for it. Yeah, so now we're going literally over twice as fast back and forth. It'll cost us a few extra $100 by the day, you know, day's end and maintenance, but whatever. And another $42,000. All right. So that's where we gotta decide what we're spending our money on. The options we have is the warehouse is definitely on the short list. Saving up for another large tractor is on the short list. Buying an extra tile of land to get the canola started is on the short list. Or it probably, we'll have to check. It'd either be a cash crop for one season. So like, something like, you know, soy or whatever. And then, you know, once I could buy the production line, switch it over to canola. But something like that. But just to expand where we have other crops going on. There's a chance we could also pop into multiple things. It could also be not a bad move to get a windrower. That could be helpful. We could get the rollers finally to get that extra, like, 10% if we really care about it. There's lots and lots of options of what we can expand to and do all that. Now, for a lot of that, we could just wait until stuff goes on sale. For, like, equipment kind of stuff, we could try and grab something used on the discount. So do something like buy a tile of land. Right back. Busy day at work tonight? There's pros and cons of being busy. Alright. Making all our bread with our bread. So... So I am debating. I think the extra tile land sounds like a really good idea. Just so we could finally start diversifying our crops even more. Because right now we're making just grains. Like we're doing multiple types of grains, but still just grains. Versus introducing canola, which I believe the oil isn't as lucrative as the grains are. Or sorry, as the bread is. But, you know, it's just in our production line. It's still more money, is ultimately what it boils down to. Well, we can start deciding once we actually have the final count for the season. Because I don't really need to commit until probably, like, the month before I would need to plant whatever I'm going to plant. That way I can buy the tiles, set up the field, do all those things. But it should be making about 120,000, 125,000 a year right now. So we should make somewhere in the area of like... Actually, no, I think we're probably higher than that now. Because we started the month with like 12,000 or something like that. And we're still working on our flour now. And it's something like 10,000, or it's like 14,000 or whatever per load of flour we're dropping off. And I still have a good couple of rows. So we sell all this. We'll make like another 20-ish thousand when we sell all our greenhouse goods. And so that would be good there. And then we sell the wool, and I think the wool's like another 10,000 or 12,000 or something like that for the wool we're getting. Where would we buy the land at? One of the neighboring tiles. I think I'd have to double check where I was even looking at. But if we look at the map here, we can, yeah, you can see all the tiles I own here. Did we buy the land already? Okay. I think... I can't remember if I was looking at that tile. Or one of these tiles. I think were the ones we were looking at. I think it was this tile. Which I don't plan on cutting down all the trees and doing all that nonsense. I actually do like the patches of trees here and there. To just, you know, add like a little green space in here to make the fields not just a solid grid that goes on forever. Same with the rocks. I like having some of the rocks in here. But like you can see, I can put like a big field in between here. Does the big reason you go into animals so often with Farm Simulator 22 is that it drives the crops you do? Yeah. That's understandable. But yeah, now the thing I'm looking at is just, okay, what equipment do I have? What is the next crop I can do to differentiate things using as much of the equipment I already have? You know, and then expand. Because it is one of those things that when you branch out from like what we're doing right now to root crop or potatoes or sugarcane or grapes or whatever, you take 90% of the equipment you already have and say, well, I won't be using this, and have to completely change up what you're working on. So the downside is, like, for example, if I wanted to switch over to potatoes, I would need the potato harvest. Well, I need a potato harvester and all that. So I'd have to get like a seeder specifically for potatoes, a harvester specifically for potatoes. The sprayer and all that would be the same, but it would be two pretty pricey investments to get anything done. And if I were to buy into it now, I'd probably be buying the worst seeder and harvester, which obviously I don't want to do that. With the money we're making now, we're probably in good shape to go, okay, but like, let's just skip to buying the best equipment of that thing to start doing that thing. As you're working on saving up 2 more fields so you can branch out and get what you need for pigs, sheep, chicken, cattle, already covered with 3 fields. 2 of these fields are really smaller. Yeah, you like the canola idea? Yeah, the canola is the easiest bet, because the canola is the least amount of investment to switch over to. And then the way I could see that going is we get the canola, and we set up the oil production, and then we would potentially add in sunflowers after that, because that's the other plant for oil. And what that would require me to do is to get a planter. With a planter, I now have some of the equipment I need to start moving into other crops, and you get the idea. So I will buy a singular extra piece of equipment to do that, and then now I've branched out to 2 separate crops. And then with the planter, I can turn around and go, okay, now that I have a planter, what's the new thing I can do with this that I need to, like, 1-2 pieces of equipment off of being able to do? And then somewhere in there, I need a second tractor. Yep, I'll need a new header for the sun. Actually, do I need a new header? Because I know there's some headers that do both. Yep. That's fine. The headers aren't too expensive. But yeah, but the same harvester will work. We just need a new header. Corn header is the same. Yep. The downside is, if I remember correctly, the corn's production line, I want to say that's cereal, but you also require to have raisins and honey for cereal. Which makes it kind of a difficult production line, because I haven't done grapes, but I've heard nothing about bad things about the grapes and the sugarcane and that in the game, that a lot of the people I've known who've done it have gone, oh yeah, don't do it. Yeah, no, there's a difference between buying a header and a different harvester. Yep. And just look at the money counter go up. Get raisins from sheep poop? I don't think that's how that works. Hey, Lilani, how's it going? Alright, we should only have, what, 2 more rows of flour to drop off? 3 rows of flour to drop off. So an extra about 30,000. So we're going to be sitting at about 140,000, which imply that we made about 130,000 off of this part of the harvest. Then we'll make another 20 or so thousand off the greenhouse, and another 10 or so thousand off of the sheep. For the wool. So all of that is looking really, really solid putting us at a profit of something like 160,000 for the year. Because you're a little surprised they don't have manure collection from sheep. It's great fertilizer, especially for veggie gardens. Yeah, no, there is the idea that you can get manure in the game for stuff, but from everything I've understood, the manure is actually pretty meh. Like, if you're using precision farming, I understand it's a bit better, but like for the regular one, they're like, yeah, not worth it. You save a little bit of money on your fertilizer using it, but also, eh. All right. So if I were to do canola, what is its planting season? So canola gets planted in August and harvested there. That actually work out because it means it wouldn't overlap a lot of my other procedures. So that'd actually be a pretty good time to do it. I would like a lot of the stuff they grow in the greenhouse to be available as regular crops. Like, I would like to actually be able to do strawberries in the field. So you'd get, it's a special type of, effectively, plow. It's not the right term for it, but it's just basically a big weight with a scoop, and that's just got kind of a funnel on the back. So it leaves like a big ridge when the tractor goes over, and it's not a very scientific tool. It's, what is this? It's a scoop with a hole in it. Well, how does it work? Wait. And that's kind of it. And then you do that, and then they have another vehicle that comes behind and effectively puts plastic wrap over the ridge, and then a third vehicle actually puts the strawberries in there. And then, you know, you'd come back way later and harvest it. But, like, it'd be an interesting one because the nature of how they deal with, you know, fertilizing them is a totally different animal from a lot of other crops because of that. You do a passive fertilizer, then you do, like, the scoop thing, and then you, like, saran wrap it. So I could see it being one of those things that it just has a different procedure than other crops that would make it interesting. That said, I am hoping when they come out with, like, the next version of the game, like the next, you know, Farm Sim 22, like Farm Sim 24, whatever the new one ends up being, when they do that, I would like them to introduce kind of rogue variables, as you would. So you'd have, like, bugs would show up that you'd have to, you know, maybe spray them with pesticides, or introduce, like, have wasp colonies or whatever to be, like, you know, the natural predators for a lot of things like caterpillars or whatever. You know, various ways to, like, contain it. And it being one of those things that, like, if you do the thing to counter whatever the problem is, would have no meaningful impact, versus if, like, if you let it sit by, like, it would start to spread to other fields, that kind of thing. You can, of course, give the option to toggle it off if you don't like it. But it'd be one of those things that I could definitely see getting behind, that, you know, just a variety of different things. Like, you get, you know, some type of mildew thing that attacks your farm, like southern blight or whatever, so you'd have to get a fungicide to spray over to get rid of the fungus. That you could also have, you know, 2 or 3 different options to deal with it. So you'd have, like, the really efficient but probably not cost-effective one of just drive out there, blast it with a bunch of, you know, some type of spray. You'd have a more cost-effective, but, you know, not necessarily as time-effective thing of, like, getting, you know, the equivalent of, like, bee boxes for, like, the wasps or whatever to drop out there, or, you know, getting all stuff. Like, have a couple different solutions for each problem, just to keep it interesting. You know, and then have their pros and cons, like cost and how fast they go. Maybe if you use one solution, you have to buy, like, you know, the wasp boxes, you can't just drop one in one spot, you gotta, like, drop in a couple different places. I can see definitely ways to keep it, you know, make it interesting, and all that. All right. Arrow spraying, yeah. And you can sit there and make the decision of doing preventative maintenance, so like spraying your stuff in advance, or having like natural predators for those, you know, pests in advance. And you'd have like the upkeep cost from it, but then not have to worry about it. Okay. So let's double check sales, nothing we care about. Let's take a quick look at the animals. They're fine. The water in the greenhouses is fine. That's still doing its own thing. So it is time to advance a day again. And then we're going to sell our strawberries, our lettuce, and our tomatoes. Cash in another 20-ish thousand or so. So you're a farmer now? Digital farmer? I've played Farm Sim on the channel a bunch of times. I enjoy it. It's a good time. It's one of those games I find especially fun when I'm just looking to like hang out and, you know, and play, not have to spend like a whole lot of time putting a lot of thought and stuff, just be like, hey, let me just work on the farm kind of thing. It's a good one for that. It's always good to have those games that are like, hey, this isn't the high focus, high energy game. It's just like, you know what? I'm just chilling, doing the thing. Because some days you want to sweaty try hard, and some days you just want to relax. Okay. And you gotta be careful, because you can actually slide on the snow. But yeah, so that's kind of the cycle, is taking all the time to like do all the production stuff and all that, set up all your fields, process all your fields and all that. And then there's just in-game days of sell everything. And I could turn around if I wanted to and make it so I don't manually sell stuff like this. Okay, it is pulling from all the pallets. It's just doing it a little bit slow. But it is one of those things that if we do it like that, we're not selling at the best price. But that may be something we decide to just do at some point. Just take the greenhouse and be like, it's fine. Realistically, I'll get the warehouse and I won't worry about it. Yeah, so one trailer full. And that one is mostly tomatoes. Which the lettuce is the stuff that's like the good money. So that's about 8,000. And we've got about 3 loads worth. All right. The big thing is getting the semi-trailer or semi-truck with the big trailer for the pallets. That'll make the selling part of this process way faster, because it is actually starting to become a bottleneck as well. Which the warehouse will help with that, because then I don't have to like go and recover the stuff from all over. I can just plunk down the warehouse, and as goods start to back up, instead of just taking them out, dropping them on the ground, and coming back later, we just dump it all in the warehouse. Deal with it as we deal with it. Okay. And another lap. That'll be good to go. And this one got a little bit more lettuce than the last one, which would be a bit better money. But yeah, it'll be interesting as this farm like really grows. We'll probably also get some of the street lights and all that we talked about getting for the longest time, because I want to put a couple of street lights up on here so it's not pitch black at dark. Now, granted, nowadays, since you know we've got the tools that go much faster, it's not often I'm pushing to night, especially since I went ahead and slowed down time. But it's all right. We can deal with it all when we get there. But yeah, no, with the money we're making now, I could see buying a tile, which is 87,000, buying the warehouse as well, potentially, and I would still have enough to get fertilizer, seeds, all the other nonsense I'm going to need. And just like that fast have that many things knocked out. Which is the reason why, like, when we took the long pause in playing the game, is like, but, you know, Pierre's like, oh, I wish more, you know, it happened. It's like, but we hit that part. This is the part where a lot more happens. That we walk away at the end of the year with almost $200,000 and can just expand aggressively. You know, then the limitation is going to be needing to buy, like, second and third tractors so I can grab the AI, say, hey, go plow this field. Hit the button and then run over to the next tractor and get them set up. You know, go fertilize a different field and run away from that. The sprayer is the only limitation. The sprayer I gotta do myself because the AI is terrible at it. But when we get to that point, I'll probably get coursework or whatever. And just figure it out. Okay. We'll look at that in a minute. Because there is a big tractor there. It's only 300 something horsepower though, which is a bit surprising for the style of tractor it is. Probably not one I'm gonna grab. I'll probably save for one of the ones that's like 500 horsepower or whatever. Grab that. That way, again, there's no tools I really have to worry about not being able to run. Okay. And the last load here. We're not gonna get to see the price of the wool, because that should be another extra 10,000, because more than likely I'm going to want to make the decision on what we're doing with this money before we hit April, because April is when I need to start plowing things for sorghum and all that, and realistically I'm going to want to make a move by then. So let's drop this off, prepare the tractor, gas up the tractor, drop this off by where the bread is and all that so that we can get the other tractor sorted out. And then we'll need to check on the warehouse, that kind of stuff, and make our decisions on what we're spending. So it's looking like we're going to be sitting at pretty close to almost exactly 160,000. And then we can also, be perfectly chill with a lot of the stuff, because even if I were to need to buy a bunch of fertilizer in that, we're going to have somewhere in the ballpark of about $10,000 we're going to get from the sheep. And that should go a long way to, like, helping, because we're pretty good on, believe, fertilizer and herbicide. Seeds we've got to buy more, but I'm not super worried about that. Seeds aren't exactly the most expensive. Okay. And repair these. Gas up. Okay. So I think what we'll do is we will check on the sales, advance to March, and then March is when we will make our decision. Unless I see, like, a really good sale that's like, nope, we're doing this instead. That's the only reason I'm doing that, is like, if we just happen to have, like, some massively important piece of equipment and just get you like 60-70% off, then that would derail us from what we're doing. Well, no, do I want to wait till then? Because if we get the warehouse now, I can start dumping everything in the warehouse and not worry about it. Because I do feel like we get a piece of land, we get the warehouse, we see where we land after that. That is feeling like the direction I want to go with this. So drop you off here and go park this. It's always a catch-22 on that one, because if I buy all this stuff now, that makes the most sense for, like, what I can confirm I'm getting, kind of thing. But it does have a cost in potential opportunity. But at the same time, the opportunity. Like, granted, there's not a lot of stuff I'd really pursue opportunity-wise. Okay. And just as a precaution, let's go ahead and have you grab the trailer and just get out of the way, because I'm not exactly sure how we want to position a lot of this stuff, so. Warehouse isn't that expensive? Yeah, no, the warehouse isn't that expensive. It's if I buy the land and the warehouse, collectively that will be a pretty decent amount of money. Alright. So let's take a quick look at the land we're considering. So like I said, 37, 38, let's just say this whole top row here we'll consider, and 44. So it's been a while since we've used our truck. So let's go use our truck. So basically any of the tiles straight above where we're at, and then the one off to the left. We're only buying one of the tiles for right now. Yeah, so this one's got a pretty good chunk of land I can use. It'd be all of this. We would cut off around here somewhere. If we did oil, I could see putting the oil production line up there in this little cubby between the trees. So that's a pretty good one. 37 is feeling like a not good tile, because it is pretty badly bisected by this hill. This is almost just past the halfway point. So yeah, there's room I can use over here that's got a bunch of rocks and all that. It's right up against the water. And our stuff on the other side. I feel like this is a better tile for, like, the animals. Put, like, a lot of the animals on this side. Have, like, some supporting crop on the other side, that kind of thing. But being bisected really does hurt what I can do there. 36. So the entire this entire side of the tile is kind of messed up. This is also bisected with a weird hill. So I feel like 36 is also not a great tile. I don't remember what my plans are for this area up here because we stopped this field from coming. Oh, there's a rock over there. That's right. Yeah, and I wasn't sure what I was going to put up here. I think we actually talked about putting the animals up here. That's fine. We have options. But let's go over to 44. So 44 has a lot of room to work. We do have this corner of the area up here. Like this whole side of it's kind of unavailable. But there's still a lot of space to work with on there. And I'm avoiding going south right now because if you go up to the perimeter edge here, you actually don't get the full amount of land. Like if you look at the mini map, you see that white boundary. So there's the tree line here, which is inside the white boundary. But if you watch and I go to drive up to it, it'll stop right there. So I actually stopped short of the boundary by a good chunk. So you do miss out on like 5% of the tile or whatever. I'll eventually buy it. I'm leaning towards either 44 or 38. Maybe 38, so I don't just keep making the property longer and longer. Because we can do 38. We talked about making this where we're going to be putting our stuff. I can make a field that's about this size. We can put like our canola, our oil production up there. The animals could still be down here. All right. Hi. Going to sleep? You know, she's tired when she's like, yeah. You sound sleepy. You started a pretty early day today. Alright. So, we have this tractor. It's 378. It's a pivot tractor. I'm not a big fan. So we won't do the tractor. Okay, if we were to do the warehouse, let's take a look at where we're looking at. So construction. I'm trying to remember what the warehouse is under. It's not sheds. I think it was under silos. Bale and pallet warehouse can hold 250. It's 29,000. Yeah, it's hayloft. All right, so 29,000 for the warehouse. Trying to make sure it's at least roughly lined up there. We have our warehouse. And clean up all the other stuff around here later. And let's go to our map. And I am going to go with 38, I think. Cool. So we've expanded our property. So we still have $41,000 left. That is not allocated to anything quite yet. And that's with us buying the warehouse and expanding our land, giving us an extra 25% more land. I'm not going to try to plow up the field in the snow, though. Alright, so let's get the truck back to base. I was just doing this so that we could scout out the tiles and see what we're actually buying. And there's our brand new warehouse over there. So now what happens is, as I get the pallets, instead of just hucking them all over the place, I can pull them into the warehouse, and I'm pretty sure they just get pulled into the warehouse like you would anything else, and then you can have them removed from the warehouse. Like, I'm pretty sure you don't have to, like, take the thing out and, like, manually put them in the right places and yada 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 or anything silly like that. Okay, let's turn on the interaction points. Oh, I see. I have to actually back it or pull it into the warehouse, like pull it in. Just want to test the bread before I do any of the other stuff. Now let's load this thing up and try pulling along the side of it. I have a feeling... I'm gonna need to do stuff. The other thing to check is, I believe... I don't know with distributing that, if it means it's trying to put in the other building or what. Yeah. Change that to storing. Alright. I'm hoping I'm not going to need a forklift to do this. That'll be able to just, like, pull this in, just, like, wiggle the wagon in just a little bit here. And it'll be happy with it. Okay, so that's gonna be a little tricky to use that. And that's just probably this particular trailer isn't gonna go the greatest. If I do get the semi one, that might be fine. Or if I'm offloading more regularly with a smaller trailer. Ah, just barely off. I figured that would work. Yeah, so we're probably going to be switching up our trailer soon. Hey, so Adams, how's it going? Oh, there's another way I can potentially do this. With autoloader. We'll try here in a moment. Come on. How expensive the warehouse is like 29,000 or something like that. It was not much. So I'm thinking is I might be able to just pull up right here and then kick it out. Okay. So I could not just kick it out. Alright, so the issue is it's a little tricky to unload the trailer just because that drop-off point is inside the building, and the building is solid. I can't just pull into it. It's like that, once you get inside that point a little too far, it just doesn't work anymore. So I gotta kind of like bring this as far over as I can. That screams a bad design. I think the idea is you're supposed to fill it with a forklift or whatever, but we'll try a different trailer and that shouldn't be a big problem. I think it's because it's like a double pivoting trailer, it's kind of hard to like sneak it in there. But I can see just getting a smaller trailer for the purpose of like drop off, and now it'd be fine. Yeah, and I don't understand why they didn't make it farther out here. Okay. It can also be a thing that we just go over there, use super strength, and just huck everything in there. I don't even know if I have super strength turned on. I haven't used it in ages. Okay. So let me check the time. What's going to happen real fast, chat, is I need to use the restroom real fast. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back here in just a minute. So thank you again for tuning in. I'll be back here in just a couple minutes. I forgot how much of an impact that all has on your animation speeds and everything. It's like, we'll just grab the jacket, it'll be fine. We'll toss it on. I approve of this disaster. This is a straight up disaster, and I am here for it. You don't get to have a name yet. Storge. Walter's asking me questions about my coffee bean dealer. I'm not telling.
Raj is hot.
Raj is hot.
It is good for Raj.
Yes, good for Raj indeed. I love you.
I love you.
Too much is like, Raj is hot. Good for Raj. Raj is like, I know. I am dapper AF. But I'm not telling. I know what he... I was waiting for there to be like a med kit in there and just like med kit myself back up. All right, and we are back. So with that, we have a couple things to work on. First of all, I'm just gonna advance a month so we're not in the snow. Double checking, make sure I don't have any production lines or stuck on anything. Sheep, are you happy? It's relative. Wait, yeah, we're good. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is we will advance the date because I can't see what the heck's going on. And then we've got a new field to make, so we'll have to figure that out. We don't have enough money to set up the oil production. So when we go to do the crop, it may be we do one season of like soybean and then like, actually, when do I plant the soybean? We might do like one season of soybean just to have something there. It'd be April. And then switch over to, well, actually by August, by the time, yeah, no, I lied. Because what we'll do is we'll plant it in August to be canola. We don't harvest it till July, which means by then I'll have a full another cash out of our crops. And with that full cash out of the crops and all that, we should be good to do all sorts of fun stuff. I don't care about any of these things, I don't think. No, I don't. All right. And we can go and pop over here. All right. Let's see if I change these buildings to distributing. If it puts in the warehouse, because I genuinely don't know how that works. Because my hope is as it produces it. I don't know if it distributes it to where it's needed and then like the warehouse, or like how that works. Because if it distributes it to the warehouse or something, that'd be pretty nice. I don't think it does. You've got like 13,000 there. Spit it out, man. Oh, that's the idea. So I'm assuming when it goes to distributing, what it ends up doing is it'll distribute it to like the bakery, because the bakery uses strawberries, that it would chuck it over there. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to figure out what we can do to make the pallets easier to load in the warehouse. So like I said, when I tried to pull in, it seemed like there's just an invisible wall here. Yeah, so there's just an invisible wall there. Yeah, we're definitely going to need to find a different trailer or something for doing this. Because I'm losing a lot of the benefit by the fact. Yeah, that's another possibility, is like get the front like you'd have in a bulldozer or whatever. Just dump all the pallets and shove it. I'm also wondering if literally, if I'm gonna have to do 2 passes anyways, if I just scooch by one edge then scooch by the other, does it work? That'll work, that'll be fine. It'll be 2 laps. But it's faster than it would be if I, you know, had to switch equipment in any way. Alright. Okay, so with that, the animals need grass. So let's get that going. That only takes a minute. Where's our baler at? Did I have to sell the baler to make this work? I genuinely don't remember if we sold the baler. So I don't see a baler or a foraging wagon. I understand. That we sold that to make the harvester happen, didn't we? Just double checking, I'm not losing my mind here. We do not have a baler here. I understand. Okay. So we need a baler of some form. Did we also get rid of the bale wagon? We did. We got rid of our stuff for baling entirely. Okay. Not the most exciting thing, but I forgot I had done that. Time to get a square baler? Probably. That's probably what it's doing, is just looking at getting a different baler. So I only left myself with 40,000 because I totally forgot I needed to do this, which does present a little bit of an issue because I can get like the micro baler thing here, which means I get like the tiny bales. That'll work for right now. It's definitely not what I want, but we don't have another baler on the list here. I guess that's what we're getting. Because the alternative is to get the foraging wagon. I just dump the stuff on the ground there, but that doesn't work as well. Well, I think you, with the new harvester, you didn't want to bale the straw. Well, right, but I still needed to get the grass for the sheep. The alternative is I sell the sheep and I get rid of them. Like, I think that was part of the plan, actually, now I think about it. Didn't I talk about that I didn't want to ultimately have the sheep here, and I wanted to get, like, a big sheep pen later? So I was just going to divest from dealing with the grass and the straw at all for right now. Get rid of the sheep because they weren't really that much money. So that later I could get... Yeah, I think we're just getting rid of the sheep. I think that's what we're doing. Right, so let's fast travel up there. Because we're gonna want to get the bigger sheep area as well. How expensive is an animal trailer? I can look. Where's the animal stuff? Where are you, animal stuff? There you go. Animal transport. An animal trailer, 16,000 for one that only carries 2, and we have something like... Yeah, so this would be the first one that could actually accommodate our sheep. I'm gonna be 25,000 for it. But why would I consider doing that? Because I don't have enough money to buy another place to put the sheep and then move the sheep over there and do all that stuff. I believe we could just sell our sheep. Which is what I think we're gonna do here. Yeah, so you get 950 each. Let's see, you get more money if you haul them over. It's cheaper to buy them from the dealer directly. I mean, either way, it lists as 1,000 bucks, whether it's nearby or whatever. So there's 7,600. Another 2,000. And another 5,000. And then we can go here to buildings and all that. Construction. $8,200. All right. And then we'll still get like the roughly 10,000 for the wool. I had totally forgot I had gotten rid of those. That's fine. It was well overdue. All right. Yeah, but even if I get more, I don't think it's going to make up for 16,000, considering we didn't make nearly that much from it. So I'm going to start with the little one here. Just to frame out the field. Okay, so I own this tile over here. How do I want to put the field on here? So this is the limit over here. Okay, and then trying to see. All right. It's time to make ourselves a new field. So one thing I want to do a little bit different about this one is all our other fields are rectangles. We've just been sticking to that. I am going to try to make this one kind of conform a little bit more with this tree line. I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess it up. It's going to look terrible, and we'll just live with that. But, you know. Actually doesn't look half bad. I'll have to get rid of that tree. Okay. Do we want to go up farther for this one too? I think I will. I think I'll make this one conform with the trees a bit more than the other ones. The other ones have all been rectangles and all that. And I am still trying to give the trees a pretty wide berth so our equipment can still work without dealing with those problems. The AI will hate you for it? Probably. But having every single field be a rectangle is kind of eh. There's a reason I'm putting a pretty wide gap between me and the trees. If it ends up not being enough, it ends up not being enough. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Alright, and we'll go till pretty close to here. It's fine. If eventually I'm going to get courseware or whatever, then this is one of those things that, you know, I can take the time to record the route that I take through it. And then with that, we can, you know, get the AI on task. Alright. Yeah, so the first goal is just to sit here and, get this framed out. That's the reason we're using the tiny plow, is it's much easier to like frame out our fields and all that. And then once I have that, I've got the giant plow to actually properly fill everything in so it's not taking forever. All right. Okay, and really quickly, let's grab the stump grinder. Which is here somewhere. There it is. I was like, I saw it earlier. Should have grabbed it for this whole process. Okay. Just vaporizing it from existence by sawing it too much. This is not the way to do this. That's fine. Let's not do that again. Alright. And we can go ahead and flip this over this way. It's 270 I'm aiming for, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And making ourselves a brand new field. And this doesn't need to be done urgently, but I figured go ahead and get that going so I actually remember what the heck I was doing. Alright, and now I connect it, and then we'll get the big plow and start filling this all in. And the reason I do it that way is it's so hard to actually do anything precise. Actually, let's clean up that corner a little bit more. It's really hard to do anything precise with a really big plow. So while it's faster at filling everything in, it is one of those things that it's just really hard to do corners and all that without it looking absolutely terrible and just needing to do lots and lots of cleanup. I'm still going to do a lot more cleanup than I'd like on this one, but, you know, it's whatever. But that's the reason I kept that around, because it's also not really worth me selling. It's worth like $1,000, if that, to sell the tiny little plow now. All right. And this will upset people because it's going to be plowed in a whole bunch of different directions. It's not going to be nice stripes or anything yet. But we'll get there. Like, we're setting it up now. It'll be nice later. There'll be lots of cleanup I'm going to have to do. We're going to miss lots of spots. And that's just due to limitations of the, of kind of the plow so far as it being rigid and at an angle and all that. Okay. You know, I made the comment that I made this field not rectangular just to have some mix, because all our other fields are rectangles. So, put 2 gradual bends in it. A little bit better use of the land. The AI is going to absolutely despise its existence. But that's fine. Go ahead and get this other loose tree as well. That said, I should... You think you should make some mozzarella sticks? Do it. Absolutely. I can't think of a single reason not to. Because let's assess. We could either A, you could have mozzarella sticks, or B, you could not have mozzarella sticks. And I know between these two options, having the mozzarella sticks is definitely the option I would go for. You second this, you had them for dinner myself. We didn't have mozzarella sticks. We did have garlic bread. So we're on a similar track. Not quite. Like I said, don't sweat about the fact that we're gonna miss spots. I'm gonna have to do a lot of cleanup. That's to be expected. We're just gonna get as much as we can, right? What? You had pizza though? Yeah, we had pasta. There's a place around here that does like it's like a Chinese takeout place, except instead of Chinese, it's Italian, and it's mostly focused on pasta. And I had a recipe that, like, it's really good food. I made the comment earlier. It looks like a total dive kind of place when you go in there, but then the food's like really good. The people came from Italy, like they're not, you know, some number of generations removed or whatever. Like, literally, they are first generation here kind of thing. And it's just, you know, they just opened it. Not the prettiest restaurant or whatever, but the food is amazing. But the guy was all excited because I saw something on their menu that I'm like, I have no idea, like I've never heard of this before. And it was just a pasta thing. Just had like a little bit of a different combination of stuff. And he was so proud. He's like, not many people order. It's a recipe from my hometown that's like been around for like the last 90 years or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. I wish I could remember what it was to tell you, but I don't remember. But it was good stuff. It was like a red sauce, you know. It's kind of like rigatoni. It's similar to rigatoni, but it had like a different protein, like a different type of like sausage and everything to it or whatever. You had a nice restaurant or good food, choose one. I wouldn't say they're necessarily mutually exclusive, but they're definitely some absolute hole-in-the-wall type restaurants where they're not necessarily the most appealing. They're kind of like only locally known. From the outside, they look totally sketch, like, you know, 50-50 shot if you get a, you know, absolutely amazing dinner or food poisoning. It's not quite that bad. But yeah. All right. You rest in the building or both? Yeah, I mean at the start when you're like first opening stuff, yeah. Good food every time, you don't care what it looks like? Yeah. Oh yeah, no, if you're deciding, it's like, yeah, I care about the food, like how you present your restaurant. You know, that could be a fun novelty, but isn't really that important to me. One second, I'm gonna sneeze and I'm trying to not have it happen. Give me a moment. Alright, sorry about that. I just had that like tickle in my nose for a while. I was like, I'm gonna sneeze. And it just kept not quite getting to the point where it's like, okay, it's time for it. Or going away. I was just on that fence. I was like, alright, I gotta intervene. This is gonna drive me up the wall. Oh, we're doing great with this. Don't look at it directly, it'll upset you. So you prefer to order food and get it delivered over eating at the restaurant? It's so expensive. Like the cost of delivery is so expensive. Like when I was doing the software dev thing, I could justify that kind of thing way more. But now that I'm like, you know, streaming and all that with a lower amount of money, I gotta keep my costs down where I can. And one of those things is like just how expensive delivery gets. Okay. That said, it depends. There's definitely times I want to eat out, and there's definitely times I want to bring it home. Because I am home all day, most days, it is one of those things that I do like to get out of the house for a little while. Like, not for, like, the social side of things like that, I really don't care about that much. But just get out for a couple of hours, because it is definitely one of those things you can start get a little antsy when you're home all the time. Let's see, you save a lot of money by buying direct instead of using ordering web service. Yeah, well that's the thing though. It's not, by all means, when you get like Uber Eats or whatever, it costs more. Let's see, if you use equipment going to count clockwise, if you use that equipment going counterclockwise, you get much closer. I could flip the thing either way. Yeah, no, there's a pro and the con. Like the con is the way I'm doing with this. When I'm turning left, I have like much big sweeping plows. But when I'm turning right, yeah, it does like a narrower turn. So really, I would want to pick it up and rotate it and put it back down. But honestly, I don't feel like it. Alright. But yeah, no, going directly to the website, one of the issues we've run into around here is so many of them, if I go directly to, you know, whatever the name of the place is, so many of them just go through Uber Eats or whatever, Grubhub, you know, insert name of any of those types of places. So many of them have gotten rid of their entire delivery service themselves and just defaults to using those. So it doesn't really make a difference. You go to their website and be like, I would like to order your food. It kicks you over to Grubhub or whatever. Just by the opposite direction. No need to switch the machine. Okay. I'll bite. Mostly I've been doing this the way I have been because I can't, because I'm plowing the field for the first time. So if I were to turn around and try and do this the other way, to show you the issue we're dealing with this. If I turn around and I do this, so let's imagine I'm wanting to do this spot. I'm not lined up, but just pretend for a moment. So actually, in this case, I can put it down here. Most of the time, the tip of the back will stick off the side, so I have to move forward, but it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I'll clean it up on the other side. I'm trying to clean this up while we're here doing this. I'm gonna have to do a lot of touch-ups. It's fine. Like that's the reason I warn people in advance. Like, yeah, you're gonna hate the way this is gonna look, and people who like actually use plows in real life are like, but you don't do it that way. Have you ever played Factorio on stream? I have a couple times actually. It's a fun game. I actually have, I think, like 1,000 or plus hours in it. Really enjoy the game. It is one of those games that the biggest interest of watching people play that game is usually people who are, you know, doing ridiculously heavily modded runs, speed running, or first-time players, of which I don't really enjoy modded or speed running kind of things, and I'm also not a first-time player. So it's kind of one of those things that I can hop in, mess with it a little bit. Hey, Emma, how's it going? All right. All right. Let's see if I can't get this lined up. There we go. Just cleaning up the edges a little bit. And then we'll get back to plowing the rest of this field. But yeah, no, I played Factory. I've also done Satisfactory on the channel, where I put a lot of time to Satisfactory for a while. I do enjoy my automation logistics game. Generally speaking, they have not performed well on the channel. The big problem I find with the automation logistics style games is if you're playing it as like a regular thing, like that's kind of your go-to, they do fine. It's really hard to dip your toe in them for more than like a stream or two otherwise, because it is one of those game genre that unless your audience is very specifically in that game, like that's just their thing, that once people miss like the first stream or so, like once they miss a stream or so, I should say, it is kind of one of those things that's really hard to pick up where you've left off kind of thing. That like it's too hard to see or whatever. Right, Jaywalker's saying it's really hard to get into those because you don't know what's happening. Right, it's one of those things, if you get into the game, like watch it on stream right from the beginning, and you don't miss any, it can be a really good time. But unless you're someone who that's just what you watch, it's really hard to do any real length of that. It is a game that you'll have like your highest viewership usually on the very first stream of it. And then every time you play it like after that in the same run, it's just your viewership is just down. Because it is one of those games that once you miss a little bit, it's like too hard to understand what's going on picking up, unless again, that is just what you do. It's the same thing with very story-driven games as well. Very, very heavily story-driven games are games that once people miss a stream of it, unless like that's their game or whatever, tends to be you just drop off more and more viewers as the story goes along.
Thank you FG Squared for subscribing for 16 months. Morning Rual and chat. A group of farmers couldn't decide what crops they wanted to grow, so they had a vote on it. It was a straw poll.
Thank you, FG Squared, so much for the pun. I really do appreciate that, and thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. It's subbed the channel for 16 months, a year and a third, so I really do appreciate that. That means a whole heck of a lot. But, absolutely enjoy all that stuff. But, welcome in and all that. That putting us at almost a third of the points we need for the month to hit our 60-40 split. We're on our last month. And we're only, what, day 3? Day 4? So we're doing really good there, so thank you so much for that. For those who don't know FG Squared, I'm going to get you a shout-out real fast, because I believe my mods aren't here tonight, so shout-out FG. For those who don't know FG Squared, absolutely fantastic content creator on the platform. Highly, 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 highly recommend. Last seen playing Sons of Valhalla. What was your final verdict of that, by the way? Because I believe I also got a key for it, but I haven't had a chance to check it out. I know it's definitely very, very, very heavily inspired by Kingdoms, but it looked like they had a lot more, but you know, I had to call it a night before he got super far in it. Yeah, Plus program, absolutely. Cannot wait to get that extra, like, 20-ish% increase in revenue. Yeah, for those who don't know, FG plays a whole variety of games. Let's see. It had some motion sickness issues, nothing too severe, but you're enjoying it a lot. The combat is more involved and makes it super fun. Nice. Doing more today. That's always a good sign when a person who you know, you're playing a game, and even though it has like some snags, some snafus, whatever you want to say, but you're like, but hey, I'm gonna play more of it. That's usually a very good sign about a game. When you're like, no, I'm playing more of it. I enjoyed it. Yeah, because I know I tuned in, but I believe I had to be, like, lurking a lot, because, I had a lot of stuff I needed to do. Yep, just one more month. We're on that home stretch. Because, I had, like, you know, some invoices I had to send up. and all that kind of good stuff. You know, which is annoying, but you know, it means it's annoying because you made money. So it's a kind of annoying that's really worth doing. And I know after stream today, I get everything set up for I'm doing a sponsored stream tomorrow. Doing Factor 75 again. I say again as if it happens often, but I did it like 2 years ago. And it worked out really well, and they reached out. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll do it. Community really, you know, responded well to it last time. All right, for those who are like, are you talking to just random people? Just like talking out to the void. I am streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. So if it ever seems like I'm just talking to nobody, that's usually what it is. Someone on the other platform. I do try to call out when there's questions or whatever that are meaningful and all that to like that I'm answering, I should say. I do try and like read out the question that way, no matter what platform you're on. Because it's even if I'm not on multiple platforms, it's still worth doing, just because, you know, a lot of people lurk and aren't actually watching, you know, chat and all that. They're just kind of hanging. So do you often play Nova Drift on stream? Not really. I have played it on stream, but I haven't touched Nova Drift in a very long time. Yeah, it's also worth doing for the VOD. Absolutely. It's little things like that that don't seem like they'd be that big a deal, but really do make a difference. Alright. Yeah, no, I've still been, I know we talked about previously, with all the games coming out, it's been like getting into a new game kind of paralysis, that there are so many games out there that have been coming out that it's like, oh, I should check that out, I should check that out, I should check that out. And then it comes time to actually start streaming, you're like, I'm just gonna do the thing I already know. I can't decide, it's too many. Let's see, have any other projects in the works hope you release? Project Drift Forever Farming? Have any other projects in the works you hope to release? Project Drift Forever Farming. I have no idea what Project Drift Forever Farming is. I mean, so like RimWorld's DLC is coming out. I'm massively looking forward to the new DLC. Coral Island is supposed to have a pretty big update sometime here in spring, so I'll definitely want to check that out. Let's see, Project Zomboid, Nova Drift, Forever Skies, Farm Sim 22. Project Zomboid Build Party 2 I'm looking forward to. I do think I'm gonna probably get some pretty good mileage out of that so far as time and all that. I know I'm not gonna go as hard as I did in Build 41. It's just, you know, reality is what reality is. I burnt myself out on it. But that said, you know, with the new update, new content, that'll be a thing I'll be able to enjoy a bit. But I think it'll be one of those ones that once I've checked out the new content a bit, that realistically I'll probably play for, you know, a good couple weeks to a month or so. And then I'll probably be, you know, ready to not be playing it anymore. That's the downside if you go really that hard on a game. That it can be the thing that you can never go back to the game and really enjoy it the way you did the first time, kind of deal, because you played too much. Nova Drift, like I enjoy Nova Drift, like very genuinely. I just haven't played Nova Drift in a good long while. For those who don't know Nova Drift, it's a roguelite game where you play as it's like roguelite asteroids, but you know, with, you know, a lot of boss encounters and lots of upgrades and all that, but it's like, it feels like asteroids in the way you control it and all that. That's pretty good. Forever Skies, I did play for, oh, I didn't take the part out. What'd you make it in? What'd you make it in? I'm not sure what you mean. What'd you make it in? Sorry. What do you make it in? I didn't make Nova Drift. Like that's made by someone else. I don't have any published games. I'm a software developer, but not that kind, not a game dev. Not that I haven't dabbled or hobbyist, but I've never released anything. I start many a project that will never be finished, kind of issue. But if you mean like what I make it in, like what ship did I use? I've played a bunch of different varieties in that. Oh yeah, no. Nova Drift is not my project. No. Yeah, no, the Nexus store, which I need to go back there and do a cleanup and update it. But the Nexus store is just a store that you can buy games through it, and then I, as the person who has like my store, I do get a kickback from those games. There is a lot of times the Nexus store will be the cheapest place to get it, but not always. And very much I'm of the mindset like, if you can, like, if Nexus is cheaper than Steam, buy it through Nexus. I believe it gives you a Steam key if I recall correctly. I'm pretty sure it does. But if it is cheaper on Steam, just buy it on Steam. Just buy it where it's cheapest. It's just the idea is if it happens to be cheaper on Nexus store, you know, win-win-win. You know, you get it cheaper, I get a kickback, and then Nexus gets its thing. But it's just like one of those ones that like sometimes you can get stuff through Steam cheaper. Sometimes there's like third party like Humble Bundle, you can get it cheaper. You know, you kind of shop around. But I admittedly have not been good at maintaining the Nexus store stuff. Which it still works fine, it's just I haven't updated to be more up-to-date games, that kind of thing. It's still got a bunch of gems in there, like I can't remember what's on there. I'd guess stuff like Terraria, Project Zomboid, games I played a whole bunch. I was for a while being good about, like, I'd play City Skylines, so I'd take down whatever game was, like, least relevant, then put City Skylines on there, and, you know, repeat. They removed a lot of stuff for Nexus recently? Gotcha. It doesn't surprise me. It felt like the big draw for Nexus was creators and influencers promoting the games on there, so that, you know, if we weren't doing a sponsored thing or whatever, that, you know, I would pop on there and let's say it's Timberborn. That, you know, if I wasn't doing a sponsored spot, I would play Timberborn and put Timberborn on the Nexus store and be like, hey, you can buy this game right now on my Nexus store for a discount, which I never really did that direct of a thing. But that feels like that'd be their value prospect. But between stuff like Dare Drop and, you know, all these other things, that probably bit into their value a little bit. That'd just be my guess. I haven't... That's my assumption of the business model and how that's supposed to work. Alright, and we can go here and take care of that stump. Alright. Wrong button. But yeah, so Nexus is one of those ones that it's like, I could see that being where, as the market has changed, its value proposition gets eaten into. Which happens. The one that's been the surprise to me is how much that, like, Dare Drop has been doing really well. Like, just doing lots and lots of stuff. Now, granted, a lot of it, you know, is stuff I don't care about, but there is some, like, really good stuff that comes through Dare Drops these days. Whereas, now, it feels like a lot of the places I used to get, you know, like, sponsorship opportunities, not counting, like, interacting directly with publishers and devs, but, you know, third parties who facilitated that, a lot of them have really not been as nearly as good. So it's been weird that Dare Drop used to be kind of the, oh, this is like the one you go to get, kind of underpaid or whatever, but it's, decently reliable, to, okay, well, there's a lot more opportunities on there than there were before that, even if you're not getting actually paid, but getting keys or whatever is still pretty good. Whereas most of the sources I would go to normally to get my keys and try and find, decent opportunities and all that have been pretty mixed bag lately. Some exceptions. You think you're focusing more on in-game time? Things like Smite? Yeah, I did notice they started including stuff like, I can't remember if Path of Exile's on there, but some of the, in-game microtransactions. Which I guess makes sense if they're going for the market of, people see game from influencer and then go to the Nexus store to buy it. I could certainly see room for stuff like Path of Exile where, it's a free game, but there's microtransactions, so you see the person playing, you're like, oh yeah, I got this cool sound effect on my character, makes my fireballs all blue and wild, and, people go, oh man, that's so cool. And then buying that, or, you see a person playing, like, Smite or League of Legends or whatever, and then they have, like, that one new character that they're kicking butt with, and you're like, oh man, I want to kick butt too. So then they buy the character. And support the channel and all that. I can see that. Makes sense. Still all on the up and up. I don't really play many microtransaction heavy games, so it doesn't do me a whole lot of good, but it's perfectly fine for me to not be the target market, as it were. Because you have seen dev unlock all characters for a streamer while live. That stuff does happen. Like, there's times that, I haven't played many games that have, like, much in the way of microtransaction. It's not that I don't play games that have any, like, strictly no on the microtransactions or whatever. But it is one of those things that, like, they'll sometimes give you, like, the press key or whatever you want to call it, that it unlocks a bunch of stuff. Generally I shy away from games, though, that use that model of you play to get the freemium money to then use the freemium money to then unlock your characters or whatever. It's one thing if it's cosmetics, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but even then, because mostly that model tends to be around multiplayer and competitive multiplayer games, which fall outside of what I usually play on the channel. I play a lot of single player games, and it's pretty hard to justify buying skins in single player games. Not that it doesn't happen, you got games like The Sims. But, like, I don't care about the cosmetics as much. So if they gave me a bunch of paint jobs that I could spend money to unlock, like real life money to unlock in Farm Sim, it's kind of shrugs. I don't really care. Versus, like, buying the expansions that add more vehicles and all that, I can get behind that. That's why you like Hell Let Loose. All the DLCs are just different uniforms. Everyone has the same weapon sets. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I like about games like Path of Exile, is for the most part all the DLC is non-functional. It's just cosmetics. That said, they do have stash slots, but that feels like the way I usually present Path of Exile for people who haven't gotten into it. It's like it is a $20-ish game with a really long free demo. Is usually the way I present it, because realistic, you're gonna plunk down $20-25 or whatever on stash tabs, because that is like the one functional thing you do buy, but you buy them once and it's done. But it is like, okay, you're gonna get to around maps before you start feeling the pain of not having those stash tabs, so you can get your first however many hours it takes you to get through the entire campaign before then you start feeling the pain of not having stash tabs. That's it. I actually haven't had to buy stash tabs since a long time, so the prices probably have gone up now. But that's the idea, though. Like, what does it cost to get your set of stash tabs? That's the cost of Path of Exile. That's the price you pay to actually play the game long term. I think that's a completely reasonable way to run your business, though. Because, like, it's one thing when it's a reoccurring thing. So, like, as much as I enjoyed and played, like, tons of Warframe, that was one of those things that was always a bit of a rub for me, was that you would only get so many weapon slots and so many Warframe slots and whatever, and you could unlock more in the game by getting items and then trading them with other players for, like, the premium currency platinum. But realistically, what you're going to do is you're going to unlock another Warframe and go, okay, let me buy another Warframe slot. But at the same time, it is a free-to-play game, so sure. And I've done both when I used to play the game, as I did buy a lot of slots, and then there were times I just had, like, hard to get a hold of items that I had duplicates of, so I would trade for other people for a bunch of platinum and all that. Use that to unlock slots. I haven't played that game in years, though. I've talked about it on stream that they added a, the story thing is like this radio program that they would have a season, and you would do daily, weekly, whatever objectives, and you had to the end of the season to get enough points, and then you could, you know, get the rewards, and they would have some, like, practically unique rewards each season. And then the issue was you really could, like, you couldn't take very many days off the game per season if you wanted to get the reward. And I know they massively changed it to nowhere being nearly as severe, that you could take way more time off, or that the points didn't decay, and yada yada yada. But you know, it's very clear. It's like, oh, I am now required to play your game on a schedule. Like, if I take breaks, you know, I get punished. Gotta cut this a little bit to gradually get rid of that corner being such a big deal. Because I'm getting all of the corners are starting to get, like, sharp points. I have to do, like, these big circles around. So I'm gonna try and, you know, go a little shallower on this one and cut across, then shallower and cut it across, that kind of thing. But they released that mechanic. I didn't even finish one whole season. I just messed with it for a little while. I'm like, nope, absolutely not. It's like, I see exactly what this is. I am not allowed to play other games now. I'm required to play your game on the schedule. Now I got you, J-Bane. But it was absolutely one of those things that they introduced. I'm like, nope. Like, if it's play or else, nah, I'm out. Imagine playing the days of WoW as one-time thing. The difference I will give WoW, though, is as much as the daily quests were an absolute grind and slog that got really repetitive after a while, which is what, you know, eventually got me tired of World of Warcraft. The issue that I ran into with that is, like, you could stop playing and they didn't, like, take your reputation back. There's no loss. Your progress paused, and then you'd come back and pick up where you left off. Which, you know, there's certainly something to say about daily quests and about how it doesn't, you know, necessarily respect your time and yada yada yada. Absolutely, 100%. But it was very much with the radio mechanic. It would be like if you took time off WoW and they took your reputation back. That you'd, like, put in all your time to grind out that reputation to be able to get, you know, whatever important item was, but you only had, like, a month to do it in real life time, and then if you failed to do it, they'd be like, nah, we're just gonna forget all that effort you put into it, and just, it's gone now. And that was the thing. It was like, it was the deleting progress that I was like, oh hell no, absolutely not. 100% does not respect my time. Really enjoy watching the game? Gotcha. I do play Farm Sim from time to time. It hasn't been as much lately. I played a whole lot of it and kind of burnt my community out on a little bit. But it is one of those ones I like to keep in the back pocket for when it's either like a low energy day or I don't know what to play. It's like, you know what? I can just pull this out. It's always a good game. Now, today's stream has definitely been like a lower viewership stream, but that said, it's normally a day I have off. So a lot of people weren't expecting it. And then at the same time, we had switched from Kenji to RimWorld, because I usually do a switch halfway through stream. And then the unstable build of RimWorld, it's some kind of bug I gotta look into, but my mouse cursor wasn't showing up in RimWorld at all, and like I can't play RimWorld without having some kind of cursor to point and click on stuff. Like just having to guess where the mouse is at any moment, nah, that's not gonna fly. So I did the whole thing where I switched games and then immediately switched games, which means I lost everyone who wasn't interested in RimWorld, and then lost everyone who wasn't interested in Farm Sim. So, you know, that hurts. But it is what it is. Yeah, we're making it back into a spike. It's fine. It'll get sorted out. I'll take a turn a lot shallower again, and I'll fix it. Let's see. The amount of time needed as playing every hour that I wasn't at work, it felt like I couldn't keep up with friends playing 12 hours a day. Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely a problem. And I used to be that person that, like, I had a lot of playtime, because a lot of the things I was doing had lots of downtime that gave me opportunities to play. So I put pretty long hours into, you know, the MMOs I'd play, and World of Warcraft was one of them, that happened for a good while. So I would always be way ahead of a lot of the people in my group. And on top of that, like, you know, I had a group of people who also had that kind of time. So there'd be a group of us who'd kind of, as a group, do like the dungeons and all that and just blast past everyone. Which is kind of one of those things that just, you know, was a lot of fun, but then your friends would get left behind, and you'd reach endgame and you'd grind out the gear and all that, and then you'd end up kind of carrying a couple of people because you geared up ahead of them, which was fine. But also I knew I had a lot of time, so I would do the stuff that kind of helped move everybody along. So get into like alchemy, where I could farm up the regents and all that kind of stuff. And then it'd just be one of those things that you realize that you're putting in all of this time to, you know, basically get what people need to be able to do their things, so that they didn't have to put the time. But after a while, you'd get frustrated with putting in the time, because you'd have those people who they wouldn't chip in on those efforts in any way. They wouldn't like chip in gold, they wouldn't chip in regions, they wouldn't chip in anything. They would just show up for raid and then they'd log off for the week until it's raid time again. But they would absolutely use all those potions. And it's like, I understand not everyone had the time, which is fine. But it would just be so many people who would play that way that you're like, look, man, I got other things I want to do than sit there and pick flowers all day. Like, I'm willing to chip in and all that, but there's a limit of how much I'm willing to carry everybody. And it was mostly guitar. Like, that used to be the one that would irk me when I played Warlock, is everyone, because back in the day, it takes soul shards to do the summoning. And you'd sit there and you put in the time to, like, grind up all your soul shards before raid. And people treat it like this free thing. It's like, no, I gotta grind up all these soul shards, and then when I'm summoning you all in, that means you're using up all my soul shards. So I have to grind twice as many soul shards, because back in the day, I don't know if it's still this way, but back in the day, I'm pretty sure they got rid of it, you would log off and your soul shards would disappear. So you'd have to grind them all up all over again. And so it meant before raid, you had to log in like an hour before raid, just sit there, you know, beating up enemies that give you any XP, get them down to low, drain soul them to get your soul shards, do that till you pretty much had all of your bags full, because you knew you were going to burn 20 of them right at the beginning, summoning everyone into raid. And everyone expected you to do it. And eventually I just got to the point where it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not offering to some people like, oh, well, you know, what a jerk you are. It's like, hey, look, man, I'm expected to have enough of these things to do what I need to do in the raid, you know, hand out like hellstones to half the people and all these. I'm sorry, I'm not putting in 2 extra hours before raid so you can show up last minute. Like, I hate to be that person, but I do have more I want to do with my life than grind, you know, herbs and soul shards and all that day and night so that you can be lazy about it. Like, there's people who I know, like, they were taking care of kids and all that, and sure, absolutely, no problem. But then there's people who just, again, they just showed up for raid, and then they didn't log in for the whole week, and then that. And I get people have different things they want to do with their time. But I'm also one of those people that had different things I wanted to do with my time. Luckily, a lot of that stuff they've gotten rid of over the years, where it's like, the soul shards don't disappear, you know, when you log out. You would open a summoning gate or whatever, so you could summon everybody at the cost of, like, 1 soul shard, or, like, 4 or 5 people, so it's, like, really nowhere near as burdensome as it used to be every individual person. You'd choose to summon them. You'd have to have, like, 2-3 people click on the portal, and all that. Yeah, no, like, that's actually one of the things, is if someone, you know, they got on and they started heading that way immediately, a lot of times, you know, if we're stuck waiting, it's like, yeah, we can summon them, that's no problem. But, Alright, FG, you have a good one. Thank you again for hanging out in the sub and all the, you know, support and everything. Do appreciate it. You go do your thing. But yeah, no, I like, if you were, like, actually putting effort into doing your thing, or, like, if it was a thing that you were late because you were doing something to help someone, it's like, yep, no problem, summoned, no question. But, like, the person who would be, you know, 10 minutes into when people are supposed to be in the raid, and they log in, and they're, you know, back at, like, the capital city, and they're like, can I get a summon, please? I'm like, nah, you should start, you can start flying, not everyone's here yet. Oh, I'm gonna need a summon. Start flying, not everyone's here yet. Yeah, you know, when can I get a summon? I haven't got a summon yet. It's like, yeah, like, not everyone's here yet. Start flying. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I'm not summoning you. We're all going to sit here for 20 minutes while you get your butt over here. Like, you could have started flying at any point and would have arrived on time. I'm not your babysitter. Okay, so we have got that all plowed. Alright, this you drop off folded down, not up. So drop that off. Drop this off. And then we will want to go ahead and repair this. I'm not too worried about repairing the, and gassing up, like, the plow and all that. They do slow down your top speed and all that. It's like, don't care. We'll get the tractor all taken care of. And then pretty soon we'll sell that wool. And we'll get the rest of that. I'm not going to worry about pulling that into the warehouse yet. We'll grab the stuff for the greenhouse and pull it into the warehouse. But, that we can worry about later. But yeah, so things are looking pretty good. We've got all of our fields set up except for the brand new field. We will have, in April, we'll replant the sorghum on the far ends. And it was August, I believe, that we will be planting... Actually, let's check one thing real fast on the seasons. So, we're going to be doing canola in that field and starting to get oil set up. What is the oats? Okay. So, little scratch there. We're going to plant the oats, because we can plant the oats, then harvest the oats in that new field, and then plant the canola. So we can actually sneak in a whole extra harvest of crops there. And we'll just dump that in the granary. You know, it'll just get us a little bit more flour over time. That'll be fine. Alright. But with that new field plowed now, I don't have to do that crap again. We can just grab the giant cultivator or plow when it needs plowing, that kind of stuff, and it'll be good. You played Mage? So I played World of Warcraft new servers would come out, and all my friends would want to play on the new server. We'd go on the new server, we'd get like the new content, and then a new server would come out and then switch. And so we'd get through it all. Like we played pretty hard. We played with like all of the updates. I basically stopped playing right before, I think it's, trying to remember which, I think it's Wrath of the Lich King is when I kind of really stepped back, didn't really play Pandaren at all. Came back for Legion for a little while, and then I haven't really been back since. But I did end up playing pretty much every single class into the late game, except Paladin I really didn't do much, and Mage I really didn't. Well, actually, Paladin, Hunter, and Mage, I got them to late game, but they were classes that I played for a little while, I was just like, and moved on. Anything wrong with them, they just weren't my jam. Warlock was one of the classes I played the most. Warrior I played a whole lot. And ultimately, eventually, towards the end, I almost went entirely nothing but healer. Which Priest Healer going, Discipline Priest Healer, like Discipline Healing was, you know, kind of my favorite. Because as one, I could kind of do stuff on my own, and it wasn't bad. I could heal, and it was really good. It took a while to convince people, like, how good this Priest could be. But the sheer amount of, like, clutch times I saved raids, you know, is just so extreme. Like people really underestimated that. And it's kind of hard for them to go solo, but when you're talking about a raid, having a raid without a Disc Priest versus having a raid with a Disc Priest, Disc was just way too powerful to not have one in your raid. Alright, so let's check how things are going. We don't have animals anymore. We'll get more later. Our greenhouses are fine. All that's fine. The flour is pretty much topped off there. Still surprising how much sorghum we have in there. But that'll get done. Alright, so we got that pretty much all good. I could cultivate these fields. I'm not going to worry about it now. That'll be what we go and do in-game next day tomorrow. Because, yeah, what we'll do in-game tomorrow is we will cultivate those 2 fields. We will seed the brand new field to be oats. Just because we're going to make it canola, and we could fit a whole harvest of oats in there. That's actually the big reason you do oats, is for, like, setup. You can manage to, like, bridge it between other crops. So get all that going. That said, it is time to advance the day forward. We'll get a bunch of stuff done in-game in this day. We'll get our field set up, we'll get stuff down and all that. That'll be good stuff. But I want to check to see what's on sale today. I do know I need to get more seeds. We basically ran ourselves out last time. I've got like just enough to maybe do one more thing. But there's literally our seeder. We already have that. Yeah, there's the baler. I'm not going to worry about the baler, because I'm not going to worry about collecting the straw. The straw is a little bit of extra income, but I'm not going to deal with it right now, because I got to get more equipment. So that's fine. I was just checking to see what's on sale. But with all that said, how often do I stream? I stream 6 days a week. Normally Thursdays are my day off, and that's Eastern time, US. Normally Thursdays are off, but this week I ended up having Wednesday off because of my wife's birthday. So I took, I did do a stream today as a makeup, but I do stream from 7 p.m. Eastern US time till about 4 a.m. Eastern US time. 6 days a week, every day but Thursdays. Anyways, with all that said, what's going to end up happening here is I am going to be wrapping up stream because it is my wrap-up time. But with all that said, I will be back here tomorrow. We will be having a sponsored stream tomorrow. Factor 75 will be supporting us. I haven't decided what I'm going to be playing tomorrow. Normally I've been doing a lot of like Rimworld and Kenshi and that kind of stuff. But I am thinking with a sponsor, I might skip doing those games tomorrow. Even though it's the juggle. Those pull in the highest viewers. So I should play those because that's the most likely to get the most sales with the sponsor. But those games also have a lot of themes that may or may not the sponsor want to be associated with. So I'll figure it out. I don't think Factor cares, but it's one of those things. But with all that said, I'm going to be wrapping up, and we are going to go find someone for us to raid over here on Twitch. If you are on YouTube or TikTok, I do have the same username on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch. Twitch is my main platform that has most of my viewers. But on TikTok and YouTube, things will be dropping off. I just realized how many people we've had tuned in this whole time on TikTok. This might be the first time that I've had for a decent amount of time more viewers on TikTok than on Twitch. We got 80 something people hanging out over there on TikTok. But that said, I'm going to be wrapping up stream, so don't forget to follow and like and subscribe on your various platforms. That way you can find your way back here in the future. But on TikTok and YouTube, those streams will be coming to an end. There's no rating over there, so I have nothing to do over there. But over here on Twitch, we are going to go find someone to raid, so hang out for that. And thank you again so much for tuning in. And let me go ahead and put up my ending stream screen and start shutting things down and getting people moved around. So for those over, let me actually also save the game and close it before I forget. All right, so let me go ahead and pop over here, and goodbye, TikTok. Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye, YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. And let's see who we can drop a cheeky little raid over here on Twitch. Let's see who we have on